It's a
What's
lot more
up?
awkward when you turn off the music and I'm still dancing and the camera comes on.
I'm always smiling when you're dancing. You can keep dancing all episode as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but then I'm gonna get tired. Although I could probably need to burn the calories since I just got back from New Orleans, and I drank my way across the damn city. I feel like
Was there
and ate
anything else to
every
do?
fucking beignet put in front of me because how am I not going to eat every beignet that's put in front of me? Because, sir, have you had a beignet before? I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
that's what you do in New Orleans. That's pretty much what you do. You eat, you drink, you be merry.
Yeah, correct.
And it seemed like you did a lot of that. And I'm happy for you. I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, I am too. Considering I was like, I've never been here. What's the worst that could happen? Like, I'm just gonna have a great time. Everything's gonna be so cheery. And then the very first day we were there, we ended up going to the National World War II Museum, and we were there for 4.5 hours, and we didn't even finish seeing everything.
Oh my
But
God! Wow.
it is a World War II museum
Right?
for
Yeah,
4.5
absolutely.
hours. Not so
Oh
happy
man.
and cheery.
No. I mean, there's a lot you can look at and lots to discover. I mean, I used to be a World War II buff back in the day,
I am
but
still.
not a cheery, definitely not a cheery thing for sure.
No. And so, you know, then afterwards, it was like all I could do was drink and eat because I had to get all my feelings out for the rest of the trip.
Right. That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah, I thought so.
So keep dancing. Keep dancing. So we are in the big blue box here with PJ and PLD. It's kind of funny. This is kind of like our own holiday special. We do mainly an after show here. Going to be reviewing and going through all of the Doctor Who as the new series pops in. We already did the first three specials with David Tennant's return. We also did the Christmas special, Church on Ruby Road, and we are ready to go for when in May the new series premieres. But until then, we're going to have a holiday special episode of our own where we're going to do what? You saw the thumbnail. We're going to rank the holiday specials. Okay, you can stop now, BJ. You can stop. It's okay.
You told me to do the whole episode, man.
I did. You were game for doing it. And I appreciate your commitment to the bit, as always.
You can't tell me to do something and anticipate that I'm not going to do it while we're here.
Fair enough. Holiday specials are a very important part of Doctor Who, always has been, especially since New Who has been around. Russell T Davies loves Christmas specials, believes Doctor Who should always have a Christmas special. Stephen Moffat did the same. Under the Chris Chibnall era, they did do New Year's specials instead for various reasons. I really don't even know why they chose to do that, but I don't know.
Because Chris Chibnall said that he felt that Christmas specials had run their course.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
And that he thought that there was nothing left for them to do.
I think that you can have endless stories. So I disagree with you, Mr. Chibnall. So I'm glad we're back to Christmas specials.
It's not the only thing we disagree with him on. So,
That's
no
I think
shock
he's a
there.
nice man. I feel like he's a nice man. I've heard him having conversations with people. So I will just quietly say I disagree with you, good sir. But
Chris Chibnall, kiss my ass.
That's PJ. Have a good day. So before we get to the ranking of the special, we'll have the rules we're going to talk about and how we went about what we're doing. But we should touch on some news and rumors that have come about because we might not have a chance to do it otherwise, obviously, which is the show to do it on as we talk about Doctor Who. We don't want to keep infecting our Two Mediocre White Dudes on film. We're filming Jason X on Tuesday. We don't need to talk about the Doctor Who rumors then. Let's talk about them now. So we can talk all about Jason.
See, I disagree with you completely. I think that people come to Two Mediocre White Dudes on Film to be a half Doctor Who, half movie podcast.
Not anymore, my friend. We have actually made this a full-fledged Doctor Who podcast, so we don't need to do that anymore. It's like trampling on the steps of Big Blue Box if we do it that way. It's not like we're going to go into Jason X here. Well, we might. That's obviously.
I mean, have you met us?
That's true. I'm trying to install order. PJ, I'm trying to still
There's no order to our shows. I don't know why you insist on order. If there's one thing that you and I have learned about each other, that there's no order to anything that we do. That's not how any of this works.
I consider it a challenge. I never turned out a challenge. Even if I fail at every single chance.
You're a goddamn fool. You know that?
I'm a sadistic man. I know. But regardless, let's talk about the little bit of news that dropped. Obviously, I didn't realize this as much. I probably should have. This was very stupid of me not to realize this, but there is now a drawback. The one drawback I can finally see of them filming
Shooting so far in
so
advance.
far in advance. Remember when we talked about that? We're like, this is exciting. This is awesome. No more big breaks. They're filming at this point. They're filming season 2. We're like, this is just great. However, with today's world of scoops and today's technology and today's fanatics, it's going to be the case where we're going to get leaks, spoilers. And sometimes it's not even necessarily story spoilers. It could be behind the scenes casting spoilers or dramatic things like that. And a batch of rumors hit this week, which we want to at least comment on. We feel like it'd be stupid to completely ignore. Um, Now, it's easy to say that there's nothing been specifically confirmed by BBC or Russell T Davies, nothing that they have said. And I believe what I said before, I was talking about with PJ, I have 3 tiers of these rumors. The highest tier being the most believable, the most pretty much confirmed, down to the lowest pure speculation. But they're all kind of important. They're all kind of interesting. And we should have the conversation. So, first off, tier number 1, it appears now that even without a confirmation, like Variety has said it, and so that is a good, strong indicator.
Yeah.
Gibson, who made her debut in The Church on Ruby Rose, was set to be the companion for the Doctor, for Ncuti Gatwa was Doctor, is leaving after season 1 to be replaced by Andor actress Varada Sethu, who played Cinta.
And let's be clear, she's not playing the same character, not replacing her as same character, mind you.
Correct.
There's a lot of people who will hear you say that and take it the wrong way. No. She's not replacing as character. The actress is coming in as a alleged new character, and also it's Ruby Road, not Ruby Rose.
Did I say Ruby Rose?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry.
Get your introductory stories right, bro.
It's Twice Final Christmas, PJ. I just want to say about that. We'll talk about that later. But no. Okay, so yeah, replacing the not the character herself, but the character's role as companion to the Doctor. Let's start really quick there, without talking about the Mila Gibson of it all. Varada Sethu was a phenomenal actress. I loved her in Cinta and in Andor. And she's
also in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, the best
Correct.
Jurassic Park sequel.
She, that's another bold lie, but okay.
No, it's a bold truth that people are not prepared to come to terms with just yet.
Yeah. Okay, and delusional you can be. Also in Now You See Me Too, a bunch of other things she's been in. But I do like her. I think she's a phenomenal actress. I think she will fit a role. I think she'll be a good foil for Ncuti. I'm hoping that they have the same, at least similar chemistry that Ruby and the Doctor had, because I love the Ruby and Doctor's chemistry in the first one.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this is something that will be okay. What do you like? Do you like Varada? Do you think this is a good companion?
I think she's a good actress. I mean, if this is the route they're going, that's great. I'm not going to be mad about it. Like, the truth is that one thing we never really talk about is that in the Davies era, he was really big on changing the companion once a season.
Yeah.
Like, that was just how it was for the most part. Like,
Right.
Yeah, Rose is on for 2, but it's because she has different doctors. I almost guarantee if Eccleston hadn't left after season 1, she probably would have been bounced. So Davies has been very big about changing it up. It wasn't until we got to Moffat, who seemed very bent on having longer arcs with the characters in New Who specifically, because as we know, Sarah Jane and Joe Grant and quite a few of them, Leela, depending on how you want to look at them, Romana 1, Romana 2, there are some of the companions who have had longer stories. Ace obviously comes to mind also. So a lot of the companions have had longer stories, but as long as it is done in service of the story, I'm really not upset about it.
Right.
The only thing I'm really upset about in all of this right now is that all of this stuff had been kind of coming out before this. And that's because of all the leaks and all these things. And the truth of the matter is Millie's kind of been treated not that great by the British tabloids. And there's a lot of back and forth on this is almost worse than the fact that when Chris's first episode aired, that he was announced to be leaving that night. So when Rose aired, Eccleston was departed, basically. And now we're getting that a full 5 months in advance, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sucks. And I feel bad because it just also feeds a lot of these very unsubstantiated rumors in the British tabloids about Millie Gibson.
Right.
And so I think my frustration right now is that Russell and the BBC haven't really come out to say anything, because I really feel like they should be there to catch her and help,
Yeah.
you know, mitigate some of the stuff going on behind the scenes with it, because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of people now raking her over the coals and calling her a lot of names, and she's
Mhm.
young and stuff, and people are being really terrible about it.
Yeah. I agree.
So it's a bummer that they're not really getting out there and saying anything. But Shooty did come out and support her in his own way on Instagram, and I thought that was cool. So, all things being equal, it seems like I would argue that most of those tabloid rumors are probably not true, with Shooty coming out and doing his own little thing supporting.
Yeah, you mentioned the tabloid part of it, and I'm gonna get into that in a minute. I will say, it's interesting that Russell T Davies and BBC have not said anything yet. I'm sure that they didn't want this out there, and I'm sure they were probably trying to hold it off, and, like, they would probably have made some kind of announcement, like, towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't lived through the Chris Eccleston. I mean, lived through it, but I wasn't watching Doctor Who daily, like, on a weekly basis when
How
it
dare
came
you?
back. You weren't either, I don't think, when Nicholson came
No,
back,
I
were you either?
wasn't, but
Yeah,
I just
okay,
wanted
good
to give
enough.
you shit.
So, like, I don't know how that felt. I'm seeing that now, like, I'm wondering how it's going to affect our viewing of season 1, knowing that she's kinda like a lame duck in a way. I mean, it's not true to say that. It's actually it's a very poor choice of words by me, because she's still in season 1, and that's what her story is. So the story is still the story that's in season 1. But I do wonder if it makes us look differently at it. Like, are we trying not to get too attached to her? I don't know if it's going to affect it or not. We're going to find out, I guess. But as far as
Right.
tabloidy stuff goes, that is like the tier 2 thing I was talking about. There were some reports from various sources, again, that mentioned unprofessional conduct of some sorts by Millie. Was the reason why she's being written out.
It was her not liking night shoots and stuff like that, like, just not
Diva-ish kind of
vibing with the
behavior,
schedule.
maybe.
Yeah.
So was it? I kind of want to know more importantly, like, was it Millie's choice to leave, or was it the BBC's choice to kind of, I don't want to deal with this and write her out? I mean, we don't really know, and we're never going to know, and we don't actually have to know. It's not our business, to be honest with you, completely honest with
Yeah.
you. But that part of it is what you're talking about. Kind of makes her look like a young diva. It makes her look bad. Um, and it's kind of surprising, or maybe not surprising, to talk about, like, we had Eccleston had his issues with RTD and
Mhm.
company when he left and everything else in the BBC, and here is RTD coming back, and then there's this kind of an issue. It might be another reason why RTD is not saying anything yet, because he's kind of like understands, like, wow, this is happening. I got to figure out the best way to say this, or
Yeah.
like to figure out to kind of circle my wagon to go, what is going on here? I also even posited to you at one point. I wonder if RTD is a little, if there was issues with her from someone else, is he almost, I don't know, overreacting is the right word, but like he might be a little bit, whatever the opposite of gun shy is, because of what went down before. Because he said he didn't know a lot of stuff was going on with things, and so he would have changed it if he knew better. Maybe he's a little more wanting to nip things in the bud a little quickly before it got out of control. Um,
Right.
a lot comes down to we don't know things, and again, I don't wish we didn't have to have this conversation, because this feels like it's not anything we really need to know about, and it's only going to sully the show for us a little bit. Not to the point where I'm going to stop watching, or I'm still very excited about May. Let me tell you, but it's just
Oh,
sad we have
yeah.
to deal with that. Just sad we have to deal with that.
It
So,
just sucks. That's
mhm.
all it is. And, like, I mean, as we said, I think the biggest bummer too is that it ultimately just really, again, it's not like it's any different than anything Davies has honestly been done in the past. As I
Mhm.
said, I mean, most of his companions have been one season, one off type
Mhm.
things, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a bummer overall.
100%, 100%. Before I go down to the third tier thing, the other thing I just want to say, the idea that she had unprofessional conduct or whatever, it couldn't have been that bad, considering we do. I mean, 99%. We're 99% certain that she has actually filmed things for season 2. So even if she's leaving after season 1, she's got a reduced role in season 2, which means she's actually still working there for season 2. If it was that problematic, she wouldn't be coming back at all for season 2. You had to figure out a way to write her out. So I got to feel like it's maybe this is being overblown. It might just be a young
Yeah.
actress. Didn't know what she was getting into. Was kind of like did her first season. Like, you know what? Thank you. I'm happy for my time here. I'd like to maybe do something else. And you know what? That's fine because that's absolutely her right. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
last bit of okay, the last bit of the tier 3 part I wanted to discuss and touch on briefly is there was a very unsubstantiated reports at this point. I believe I saw these in one or two outlets or scoopers, et cetera, stating that Shruti Gatwa was going to leave after season 2 of the show. Now, that seems strange to some people who may be just be coming on to Doctor Who. But quite frankly, most doctors don't last more than 3 seasons. Christopher Eccleston lasted 1. That was a different issue. David Tennant lasted 4, and that was a big one, 4 plus some specials. But Matt Smith, how many? He had 3 or did he have 4? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Matt Smith had 3? I want to say he had 3.
3.
Yeah, I want to say he had 3 as well. And then, of course, Peter Capaldi had 3, and Jodie Whittaker had 3. So if it is a 2,
yeah, everyone's had 3. The only one who hasn't is Chris.
And well, David had 4. David had the 4, obviously.
Well, kinda. I mean, David's kind of had 4, but not really because it's only season 2, 3, and 4. Then the specials.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I was thinking about 4 seasons, but his first, third, and second ones was 2, 3, and 4. Then the specials was half. And then you give him another special, so that's another half season. So therefore 4.
Yeah,
but in the run 3, you're not wrong. On the run 3, so Shooty having 2 isn't necessarily a big huge deal either. Maybe he did his thing and was happy and wants to get out now, perhaps 2. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if season 3 was his last one either. It's gonna be kind of strange where we could know the next Doctor before the end of season 1 and still have 2 seasons left for them to wait. We're filming things at this point, or at least know that he's leaving, whether we knew the new Doctor or not. But again, that is the least. That is the least confirmed one. It's just something I'm going to throw out there because it was said, and I want to comment on it. But what do you have to say about it, Peach?
I think it'd be good for the show in a lot of ways if they finally bucked the 3-season trend. It's a little weird because again, it's one of those I don't want to really necessarily know about it up front. I would love if it was actually a surprise. And like honestly, look, imagine if we got to the end of season 2 and when none of us knew and it just happened, right?
Right.
In the same way that they almost could have gotten away with that with like the Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Because at the end of the Stolen Earth, remember the first time you watched it and none of us knew, like it was a huge deal. Everyone thought he was really going to regenerate. And I would really love to see them try to pull that off. I don't think they can these days.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I think it's just too damn hard.
Yeah, it's nearly impossible.
So, yeah. So if there's truth to the matter, 2 years is a good run. Like that, I think it'd be great to start to buck that 3-year trend just because I think it's important to keep people on their toes. But I mean, ultimately, kind of didn't we just do that? Because Tenet was only back for technically 3 episodes,
right?
Before regenerating again,
right?
Or by generating, however you want to reference it. But like the point is that he's no longer the current canonical Doctor. Like he's out there, but it is no longer him as the Doctor. So you have to be able to do those kind of changes, and I think that kind of change is actually good for the show. Is basically what I'm getting at.
I agree. I would love to have some surprise. Imagine if we didn't know who the next Doctor was or when it was going to happen, and all of a sudden it just happened. That'd be like a holy shit moment for sure. Probably the biggest holy shit moment of the whole, at least New Who, if nothing else. I mean, that'd be great. I would love that. Very interesting because it's kind of funny. Like nowadays we have known already before who it's going to be, and you almost kind of get a little bit of time to kind of prepare for who they're going to be. And if you don't know them well as an actor, like we knew Peter Capaldi, we had seen Peter Capaldi for a while. We knew Jodie Whittaker and saw her in Broadchurch with David Tennant. So we kind of at least knew who the people were. Very interesting. All of a sudden, boom, someone shows up, and all of a sudden, boom, there it is. It's Michael Sheen. I mean, I'm not just throwing out our name out there, like randomly out there. I think that'd be awesome. I think it'd be really cool. But again, I just don't think it's possible in this day and age. So, all right.
Yeah, I think that's the the truth of the matter is, I've said it before on almost every podcast that we do on here, is that we're just far too close to this stuff now.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that's the unfortunate truth of the matter, is that in a world that's so connected and everyone's online and there's all these scooper things and
Mhm.
people wanting to leak things, and that's how a lot of people are even making their money, and that's what it is. The unfortunate truth to that is that it also comes into things like this where we start having this stuff happen and you find out about it very early on when we shouldn't. And then when things are happening behind the scenes, you see every single minute and bit and piece and everything that breaks down, and people start to yell and scream like things are wrong. But it's like, man, it was better when we didn't have all of that. Like, if
Right.
you had heard about Back to the Future's production or The Godfather's production or Apocalypse Now's production or like Star Wars's production, you would have called all that stuff dead on arrival before it was even released.
1,000%. 1,000%. So
Perspective.
yeah, it's
That's all I'm saying.
something we all need to get. So, all right, let's get out of the news and into our topic of discussion, the holiday specials. We went through all of the holiday specials of New Who from 2005 to 2024. We have
Which
19 of
special
them.
features Jefferson Starship?
You know which one does. You know which one does. Um, we have a couple of little rules we had to come up with to kind of decide, with some decisions to make, so to speak. That's why we have 19 of them. At first, when we first were discussing this episode, we were going to do the Christmas specials, which would have left out Jodie Whittaker completely, as the Jodie only has New Year's specials. We had to decide on, once we decided to put the New Year's specials in tow, that giving us access to the End of Time Part 2 in the David Tennant era, because we would have to try to do only the End of Time Part 1, which would have been an interesting thing to rank,
Yeah.
weird to rank. So instead, because we have both of them, we actually are going to treat them as a whole story, which makes the most sense to us, instead of trying to do a Part 1 there, and a Part 2 that's the same. It just feels better to rank it as one whole story, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Of course, the
And
exceptions, the rules.
specifically, and it's
But
specifically too, like, we're only doing holiday specials. So like the the Power of the Doctor is great, and I would love to put it in here, but it does not count as a holiday special. It was
no.
part of the BBC Centurion specials.
Mhm.
It was a celebration of the BBC for their 100th anniversary. Like, that's great, and it's a huge milestone. It does not count as a holiday special, just to be
Correct.
clear. So we're not overlooking it. Same thing with the Sea Devils episode. It wasn't a holiday special of any kind. Like,
Correct.
it kind of came out around Easter, but it didn't air on Easter, so
Right.
like it doesn't count. It's just specifically Christmas and New Year's.
Nope, and none of the David Tennant specials that weren't, like, didn't have Waters of Mars as a special, that kind of thing. Those weren't any holiday type specials, for example. We did have to, unfortunately, the End of Time rule didn't work for Jodie's. We have Spyfall Part 1, which was on a holiday special, and Part 2 was nowhere near a holiday, so we couldn't count it. I felt weird leaving it off because it is actually a Jodie holiday special, with especially a good moment to talk about. So we'll get there. Finally, the last bit of news regarding that. Since we had every Doctor except for Christopher Eccleston, because Christopher Eccleston did not technically have a holiday special, we did bend the
But that
rules.
wasn't true.
Well, they had no special that actually aired on a holiday.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Actually. But Christopher Eccleston, we really wanted to, we thought it would be unfair to have every Doctor but him up on our rankings. So the Unquiet Dead from season 1 was a Christmas episode for the show, even if it didn't air on Christmas. So we want to throw that into the mix to at least be able to chat about Mr. Eccleston. So yeah, if you don't like that, it's tough.
Yeah, tough titties. Sorry.
Tough titties. So without further ado, we'll go through the rankings from lowest to highest, from 19 to 1. We've each done our own individual rankings, so we will lay it out there. And when we have both said a piece, that's when we'll talk about it. Does that make sense to you, PJ?
Sure.
Okay. I'll direct it in case you're.
We should have just done this as a ranking thing.
Yeah.
Well, people love the ranking things.
Oh yeah, the C list and the tier list stuff and everything else. Yeah. Well, Maybe next time. Maybe that's what we'll do next time for something. We'll do actually tiers of stuff things instead of just ranking the episodes. All right, 19th place. It's actually funny. I'm gonna come out right away and say our last three, 19, 18, 17, we ranked them exactly the same, and we did it separately. Like we did this before. We didn't do this together. We did these our separate lists, and we both came up with the same three.
Yep.
So not surprising, I guess, in some ways. The three. Should I actually read out all the names of the ones first before we do that? Actually, bless you.
You mean
I
of
should
like
probably
what
do that.
we're?
Yeah, we probably should
Yeah,
do that
sure.
just
Why
for
not?
them. All right, so we have The Unquiet Dead from Christopher Eccleston that we mentioned. We have David Tennant's first episode, The Christmas Invasion. We have Donna Noble's first episode, The Runaway Bride. We have the David Tennant Voyage of the Damned. David Tennant's The Next Doctor. David Tennant's The End of Time, which you mentioned. Matt Smith's A Christmas Carol. Matt Smith's The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. Matt Smith's The Snowman. Matt Smith's The Time of the Doctor. Peter Capaldi's Last Christmas. Peter Capaldi's The Husbands of River Song. Peter Capaldi's The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Peter Capaldi's Twice Upon a Time. And then Jodie Whittaker's Resolution. Jodie Whittaker's Spyfall Part 1. Jodie Whittaker's Revolution of the Daleks. Jodie Whittaker's Eve of the Daleks. And finally, Shruti Gatwa's The Church on Ruby Road. So that's what we're ranking, those 19. So without further ado, number 19, we both had it. Sad to say, it is a Jodie Whittaker episode because we don't like punching down on Jodie Whittaker.
It's unfortunately going to be part of the course of all this, right?
Yeah, it is because we've already been quite clear on all of our 2 meter way twos on film and our big blue boxes as well. We appreciate Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. We love the Doctor. We love the woman Doctor. I hope there's more female doctors to come. I can't wait for that. However, the writing kind of failed her as far as and Christopher show writing failed her, and it definitely. Unfortunately, means comparatively, they're ones I don't want to rewatch. But I will say one last bit is I actually enjoy all of these episodes. Some I like much better than others. And unfortunately, this is the case here, where Resolution is the first one on our list, or the last one on our list, I should say, number 19. Airing January 1st.
It's a bad episode, and it should feel bad. That's all I'm going to say. That is my piece on the matter.
It is a strange one. It is about archaeologists who unintentionally revive a deadly intelligence. Doctors alert to its presence. We end up discovering it's attached to one of the archaeologists' back. And at the end of the day, it ends up we figure out it's a scout Dalek, which kind of seems like a strange choice for sure. It just seemed like a desperate attempt to get the Daleks involved. It didn't feel scary like a Dalek episode usually is. My cat wants to come say hi.
Hello, kitty.
Hi, kitty. Bye, kitty. So sorry, but yeah, it didn't seem like an exciting episode enough to me. It just felt like a ho-hum episode. I didn't have any.
It 100% trying to ape Venom.
Yes,
it wants so badly to be Venom, and it's not. It doesn't work. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, I will to throw out some positive about it. I did like Charlotte Ritchie as Lynn. I thought she was she was the one who got the Dalek attached to her back. I thought she was a great choice in the role, and she was a lot of fun to watch. But it just never felt like a complete episode. It kind of felt like it was half-assed. It kind of felt like the writing was just subpar, surprisingly, unfortunately. And at the end of the day, I never really had. I watched it twice, and both times it was kind of nonplussed.
So, well, yeah, because it's not a good episode. That's the unfortunate truth of the matter. It's why it's the bottom of my list. I don't revisit this episode. I don't like this episode. I didn't like it when it aired. I rewatched it twice maybe since.
Right.
I just don't gel with it at all. I think it's very poorly written. Chibnall's insistence on having the Daleks in every one of his specials is beyond infuriating.
Yeah, that I'll agree with completely. I want to say that it does feel like everything was every Dalek. I don't remember. Did Jodie Whittaker have a non-special Dalek episode?
Just the Sea Devils one.
Okay, and that was still kind of a special.
Yeah,
even though it was a holiday special. So it's okay, Chris. The Daleks aren't that special. So all right. Next up from there, and going to number 18 on our list, both had it. And that is yet another Jodie Whittaker episode involving Daleks, shockingly. This one was a revolution of the Daleks, January 1st, 2021.
The
In
return of
this
Captain
one,
Jack Harkness.
the return of Captain Jack Harkness. We last saw the Doctor. She was put into prison, and it is up to Captain Jack to get her out. Captain Jack does get her out, which is the best part of the episode. With Captain Jack, it did feel a little more like a Doctor Who episode because the character being there. However, on the flip side of that, it didn't really feel like a great Captain Jack. He kind of felt a
Yeah,
little out of
Jack doesn't feel
whack.
written correctly, which is
Right,
funny since Chibnall wrote some of Torchwood.
right.
Uh,
So he totally should be able
and
to.
maybe I don't know. It could be Barrowman's performance. I don't know. It never fully comes together. I really don't buy the relationship at that point because Jack's just been gone so long.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
problem. That's part of the problem
and I
for
think
sure.
that's a big problem, to be honest. Like, it's not like School Reunion. The thing with something like School Reunion is that School Reunion is done in a way that Sarah Jane has clearly not really seen the Doctor in all of that time.
Right,
And so she's not there to rescue the Doctor.
right,
They just happen to be in the same place at the same time, but that's not
right.
what this is. And like, I think the other thing is like post Miracle Day, we really didn't get any more answers to Torchwood either. Like, so I think that there's also that part of it that's really frustrating is that it feels like it's coming off of a lot of unanswered questions about the end of that show. Now, granted, they have done, yes, I know I'm going to bring it up. Big Finish has done seasons 5 and 6 of Torchwood, like, and they're good and they're great and they're wonderful, and that's fine. But for someone like Paul, or literally everyone else on the internet who is like, "What do you mean that we never got answers after Miracle Day?" Yeah, so it feels weird when the character shows up because you haven't seen him in so long, and the last time you saw him, it was a pretty precarious situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so it ends up being a net gain of 0. Plus one getting Jack back, having the funness of that, but the negative of it being kind of like a weird Jack and everything else. And he leaves to go catch up with Gwen Cooper, which we never have heard about again. I don't believe even Big Finish at this point. I don't think so.
Well, and
Um,
I mean, granted, it could be set before all of those too,
I guess that's
and
true.
you know what I mean? Like, because technically speaking, yeah, sure, it could. It 100% could be set before all those, but
Right.
there's not really a. That's one of those get out of jail free
Right.
canon cards
Right.
of we're not going to really answer why,
Right. Right.
like
Yeah.
that sort of
Fair.
thing.
Fair. But that's only part of the episode anyway. The rest of the episode involves um it kind of felt like a little bit of a rehash of the I can't remember the name of the episode though, the Matt Smith Churchill episodes.
Mhm.
Also the Daleks are being marshaled as in this case, a security force, whereas before they were an army in World War II kind of thing. But it always just feels so weird that everybody forgot everything
Victory
about
of the
Daleks
Daleks.
again. I think that's what it is, Victory of the Daleks. You also have Chris Noth as this like Donald Trump like character, like big
Who
businessman,
we'd seen
politician.
before previously.
We had seen before. It's not that I have anything against Chris Noth. I just didn't like him in Doctor Who. I gotta be honest. I just didn't feel like he's an actor that fit well into that universe for me.
I also just don't like the character that much, like, if I'm
Yeah,
being frank, and it's one of those, again, Chibnall being way too on the nose on how he was writing things,
yeah,
and it's something that I honestly I complained about too,
hmm
with Russell T Davies, frankly, with some of the stuff he wrote in the last 3 specials where it was so on the nose, it was punching you in the face in all the wrong
yeah,
ways, like, if you're trying to do something, do it with a point without
yeah.
like, without poking people's eyes out, basically.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. So I mean, it's fine, but it's not something I'm excited about. I don't think the Doctor is treated as is quite the Doctor at this point. She doesn't feel like she's in control most of the time. I feel like she waited so long in prison, like that just feels like a Doctor would have jumped out of prison. At that point, she wouldn't have
Yeah.
been imprisoned that long unless she wanted to be imprisoned. It just felt strange. Didn't quite work for me. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, and
So
honestly, if she wanted to be in prison, it would need to be like Capaldi's version of the Doctor, the kind of version that feels a little like Rorschach. You
Yeah.
guys all think that I'm stuck in here with you, but no, no,
Mm,
no,
mm,
you're
you're
stuck in here
stuck in
with
here with
me.
me.
Like
Yeah.
that feels like the kind of thing, but that's not what they were doing.
This was right, exactly. This was also notable for Graham and Ryan leaving the Doctor behind and leaving the show at this point, which was both good and bad. I didn't love Ryan. I thought Ryan was pretty even. Like he just didn't do much for me. He was fine. I did love Graham. So
I
that's why I
love
was happy.
Graham.
I was happy to see Graham come back for Power of the Doctor. Um, but yeah,
With
so
his
that
own
was notable
psychic
for that.
paper.
Right, with his own psychic paper, which is fine, which is fun. But yeah, so that's where that ends up. We're at number 18. So, all right, moving on. Number 17 now, still both on the same page. This one is The Return of Dr. Mysterio. It's a Peter Capaldi era episode, which means people out there listening, we didn't put all of the Johnny Whitaker episodes last, so you can't count us on that. In fact, my favorite Doctor, Peter Capaldi, is hitting the 17th slot with The Return of Dr. Mysterio. December 25th, 2016, written by Stephen Moffat, and it's about a superhero in that era, and especially in that time, 2016, big MCU time, big even DC was doing stuff at the time. We have a
Yeah,
character
it's a
who
big
is
answer to the superhero genre for
right,
sure.
and that's one of the reasons why I think it's so low to me because it almost feels like it feels a little bit desperate to kind of cash in on that vibe. Like Doctor Who has always been his own kind of superhero, and yet we're going to go for the capes and cowls of it all to try to like catch some attention almost. And I could be wrong. They might have had a very innocent approach to it, um, but it didn't work. It didn't work for me completely. It's not to say it's not fun. I think the actor, especially the actor Justin Chatwin, who played Grant Gordon or the Ghost, was phenomenal and a lot of fun. And there were some definitely great moments of like chicanery and trickery and the typical superhero secret identity
There
back and
and
forth.
there's a little bit of fun, like comic booky opening and stuff, which is really neat. Like there is some very good in it. Matt Lucas is fantastic in this because
Yes.
I look. There's one thing we don't talk about nearly enough when it comes to Doctor Who, and that is how much I love Nardole.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
like he is such a great character, and he ends up being like such a great companion. And it's actually the first episode to feature Nardole completely
Right.
as a companion. So that is of note as well. But I really like this episode for that side of it. But to your point, like it does feel a little like they're trying to cash in on what is super popular at the time, which understandably Doctor Who does chase that from time to time, but the Doctor is kind of his own superhero. Like it's really unnecessary to do that.
Yep.
Um
Absolutely.
it's fine. It's not one that I dislike a great amount. I
Right.
enjoy revisiting it from time to time, but it's also not one that I feel the need to go out of my way to watch once a year.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. It's one of those ones that if it was on, I'd probably watch it, and I'd watch it like in a rewatch. Like if I was doing a watch through, I'm not
Oh,
going
of
to skip it for
course.
any reason. But I don't. Yeah, that's it. I just don't have much to say about it. It's not that overall memorable for any right reasons. So I just remember it as it's Doctor Who trying to do Marvel, in its way. But all right, now we're gonna get to the first one that we are going to be separate on. So our number 16. What was your number 16, PJ?
My number 16 for this list is The Runaway Bride, which is the second of the David Tennant Christmas specials, the first episode in the series to feature Donna, and just one of my least favorite episodes of his era.
That's
Um,
fair.
in a lot of ways, because and I know this is the point, I just find Donna in the episode entirely insufferable,
Mm,
and it becomes hard. I'm also not huge on the villains. Like the arachnid spider creatures are fine. It's funny. I actually think that they did a better story featuring those characters in one of the audio dramas with Peter Davison. That is much more memorable and much more interesting. I
hmm
wish that I liked this episode more. And the running theme you're gonna see throughout the night as we're talking is that I actually don't really care for most of David Tennant's Christmas specials. I don't by any means think that they're bad. I just find they are usually uninspired and like not as exciting and fun, which is weird because I tend to find a lot of the Matt Smith ones some of the best episodes in his seasons, or even recently, like the church on Ruby Road is so fascinating because I think it's such a great episode that just also happens to be a Christmas special, and I find that I've already revisited it so many times I
Mm,
never want to revisit this episode, and
yeah.
it's always super frustrating.
Um, I will agree with you. I will say I have it up at number 12, so I like it a little bit more than you do. Although I wonder if that is honestly just loyalty to Donna. But I agree with you because it's quite frankly, we're not Donna hater. We love Donna Noble. We love Donna season
I
both.
I fucking love Donna.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah,
Season 4 is one of my favorite seasons. I think if I had a push to shove, that might be my favorite season, or at least close to it.
it's
And
probably my number 2.
it's part of it, and mainly because of their chemistry. David Tennant and Catherine Tate have great chemistry. It's why they brought them back for the specials earlier this year. So that's not it. But Donna is definitely a little bit of an acquired taste, if you will. In this episode, you don't have a long enough time with her to really be acquired. She just kind of has that grating feel to her, and you just want her to. You want her to shut up half the time, to be honest with you. That's partially the problem. Usually, when she's being abrasive and like obnoxious in the season 4 is usually for a good point. She's trying to get the doctor to just be more human, that kind of thing. She's
Yeah,
fighting for something. This is just more like, I know it's a wedding, it's a special day. I get that, but she's a lot of like, I'm like, oh,
she's a
enough.
bridezilla.
Exactly. I actually, it's funny. I almost feel like Captain Tate or Donna Noble does a little bit of the Ahsoka thing here. People hated Ahsoka in the Clone Wars movie. We're very annoyed by her.
Yeah,
But by now, she's one of the top 10 Star Wars characters in a lot of people's lists at this point because she's
mhm.
done that much work on her. So
That's a
similar.
great point. I hadn't actually thought about that.
It's very similar. Um, but and the other thing about it also, I feel like a lot of times there's a lot that reminded me of the Autotons again, like there's the Christmas, like they had the
Yeah,
Christmas robots, whatever, and they kind of looked a lot like the same ones we saw in Rose, so kind of felt a little bit repetitive, like because it wasn't the same characters, but they felt similar, and
well,
it all felt
the
kind of tired.
weirdest yeah, and the weirdest thing is, to your point, is like, so my next one, spoiler alert for the next one on my list is the Christmas Invasion, which
Mm,
features those same characters.
yeah,
And the thing is that there's no like real through line with that. And that's one of
right,
the weird Russell T Davies dropping the ball in the wrong way,
right, right.
because those should be characters that we see more interconnected. And why are they always there on Christmas? What is the reason for this? Like, there's never anything that's done with it, right?
Agreed,
And so
agreed.
they're just weird robots, killer Santa things that are not that interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so I'm glad it exists because we wouldn't have had season 4 without it,
Right.
obviously. And there was some cool moments at the end when the Ragnos Queen and David Tennant were having it, doing they're squaring off.
Yeah.
That was some cool moments to it. As only David Tennant has that really great confrontational part to him.
He's
Um,
always been good at that. He and
all the
Matt both.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. But yeah, so overall, I get that. But mine's up a little higher than that. I'll let you know it's a 12 for me. So for my 16th is one that we have talked about before. We have both said we were coming around on it, and I have come around on it a little bit, but not as much as PJ has, obviously. My 16 was the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
You're out of
Um,
your mind for this one being so low. That's all I'm gonna say.
and that's fine. I do
I love you,
like
but no.
I like it. I just don't love it. I just I feel it's too much of a riff. I mean, obviously, the riff on the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Obviously, that's where a lot of it comes from. Um, but it's also not a riff on that. And there's just kind of like I know Doctor Who can be strange, but I never got into any of the strangeness that was in here. The wood creatures were all kind of I wasn't quite with him. The acid rain was kind of weird. Matt didn't seem to be Matt in this episode for me as much. I feel like he was trying too hard sometimes, and he was understated at other moments. And I kind of feel like he was inconsistent in this episode for me. Um, I just feel like there's a
I
lot.
I hear you. I chalk the performance up to where the character is though, which
Right,
is this is where he is struggling with whether he should go back to the ponds or not. And
right.
this is also a Moffat thing.
Yeah,
In general, because it's also technically another one of the Christmas specials where he was trying to get rid of one of the companions and then like kind of walked back what he was going to do
right,
because he really was like the whole thing was is Amy and Rory really weren't supposed to come back,
right.
like so there is all of that and that's kind of what happened later in Last Christmas is
Yeah,
that
there
so
is. Yeah,
same sort of thing, but I chalk up the performance to the doctor is desperately trying to figure out how to handle life without the pawns because he's become so attached
addicted.
to them.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I do get where you're coming from with a lot of it, but I also find that ultimately this episode really it makes me laugh a lot. I think it's really charming. I think all the kids are really wonderful, but I also find it just beautifully heartwarming. It makes me cry every single time that I watch it, which is I guess is not a hard sell for me. When
we're
something is
both
something I
criers.
really yeah, like it just is like it happens a lot. I cry at everything.
Right.
Just thinking about that ET sequel commercial from a couple of years ago. Remember that from
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like same thing.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I know. I know.
Yeah, when he hung out with adult Elliot and we both cried like babies. Yeah, that whole thing. Um I actually came around on this episode a lot because I didn't love it in the beginning
Right.
similarly, and then every time I would revisit it, I really fell in love with it more.
I
Um,
do I do
it's
think I
really
mentioned this
good.
before. I mentioned this to you. I don't know if I haven't mentioned it on here yet about this one and another David Tennant episode, which we're going to talk about soon. Is sometimes I feel like I like episodes when I'm watching them. Then after I'm
Mhm.
not watching them, they kind of fade from my memory. I'm like, when I watch them, I'm like, oh, I really do like this episode. I think this is one of those for me to a degree. Because I remember when I watched it, I do kind of the heartwarming thing does ring true. The ending is a very solid ending. I do like the
Dude,
magic
I
that it does. It's for a Christmas special. It's exactly what you need for a Christmas special. It's a perfect Christmas special ending.
not just and it's not just him going home now, don't get me wrong.
No, not at
Every
all.
time when that tear goes down and he, like, touches his face and he realizes that he's
Right,
crying and, like, the pawns have been like, "Get in here, like, we have it" he goes, "Why would you set a place for me?" And they're like, "We always set one for you." Like, it's incredible. It's
right,
fucking perfect. I love it.
right. I agree.
But I
Fully
even love
agree.
the thing with the pilot and their father finally coming home because the mother doesn't wanna tell the children that he's died, and I love that. I think it's such a great moment.
Yeah.
Especially because it's go towards the light, and we always hear a lot of, like, "Don't never go towards the light," but here's one where it's like, "No, no, no, no. Go towards the light, go towards the light," and,
Go
like,
towards the light.
it's a good episode, man. I like this one a lot.
So where do you have that on your list?
Um, it's little bit farther up. I didn't actually put numbers next to anything, I probably should have, but
Okay.
I have it kicked up quite a bit. It's more near the middle.
All right. Just have to let me know when that is.
Yeah, I
Okay.
will let you
That's
know.
fair. That's fair. All right. So you already started discussing your next one, your number 15, which was the Christmas invasion. So why don't you go a little
Yep.
bit more into that if you want, or do you think, or do you want me to go into
I mean,
mine?
I would love to. This is my 15. It is not a episode that I consider Christmassy in a lot of ways, as weird as that sounds.
Hmm.
Um, it's another Dr. Light episode. It's the first episode featuring David Tennant as the character fully, but I don't really count that as this because it's also not because he's really only in it for about 10 minutes.
That's a
Uh,
choice. That's a weird choice to make. I gotta say, opening up your
yeah,
first episode with a Doctor Light episode. I mean, I see the storyline they're going with because it definitely does help the idea that Rose isn't sure about this doctor, which I like that to a degree. But you gotta open up with a bang. You gotta get us in there. I mean, and granted, David Tennant does use those last 10 minutes very well to make himself the doctor. Like he comes out and
Yes,
boom, he is
100%.
the
No
doctor.
arguments there.
Um, but I agree with you in a way that a Doctor Late episode is the worst choice I think to make for a debut of a Doctor and for a Doctor Christmas special. You need the Doctor there, else it's not the same thing. A Doctor Late episode should be those off kilter. I hate this word, so rather enhancement episodes. That's what I call. I don't call them filler. I call them enhancement episodes. Those off kilter enhancement episodes in the middle of the season. Those are what the Doctor Late episodes are for.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This episode's a real weird choice.
Yeah.
Again, I think Tennant's great. He gets a great moment at the very end. The Lion King bit will always make me laugh.
Yeah. Yep.
Everything having to do with Harriet Jones is very good for the most part.
Yep.
The birth of Torchwood, a lot of all of that throughout is very good, except for the plot of the episode itself. And that's the thing, is that this episode's a full hour.
Yeah.
And I would say for about 40 minutes, there's a whole lot of not happening.
Yeah. A whole lot
And
of not.
that
Very
sucks.
slow. Very slow.
Which I think that it is very clear to me now that Russell learned his lesson from that.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, when you look at what he did with Church on Ruby Road, like that's how it should be.
Right. I 100% agree. So yeah, it had weird, the weird Santa aliens. It had the cigarettes were kind of cool. I dug what they did with that. I dug the blood.
They're in another Big Finish audio too.
Cool. Yeah, it was the blood. What did they call it? You remember what it was? The blood tampering, blood.
Yeah,
Blood.
it's like I'd have to look it up. I don't really fully remember, but I liked
Yeah.
that. I loved the whole idea of them
Yeah.
possessing people, basically.
Right. Right. That's fun. I did like that. I like the doctor calling him out on that. I do like the doctor's hand getting cut off, but like be able to grow it back is just part of the regeneration. But getting his doctor's hand back obviously is interesting. And I do love the ending with Harriet Jones, when he actually, it's the first time you see David. It shows right away who David Tennant is as a doctor. Like Harriet Jones helps him, and then also Harriet Jones kills him. She goes, "I can bring you down with 6 words. Don't you think she looks tired? Soon enough, she is gone." And it shows the vengeance of David Tennant, who's always very vengeful.
Yeah.
And has that
No
dark
second
side to
chances.
him.
That's the kind of
Right.
man I am.
Yes, exactly. It's a powerful moment. It's a very powerful moment. So I love the ending. The last 10 minutes, if there were last 10 minutes for the episode, it'd be a great episode among some of my favorite. Unfortunately, there's also the other 50 minutes before that, which kind of meanders on too much for me. But I will say
it's
also,
still very fun to watch, though, like comparatively to some of the others. Again, I mean, and I have it above 4 other episodes already. Like
yeah,
that tells you that it's and I think it really boils down to Tennant's performance.
yeah. I agree, and that's why I have it at number 11. So if you up higher than
Which
that
is
for me,
where I have Dr. Widow in the wardrobe, by the way.
okay, that's very cool. That makes sense. I have that there specifically for the last 10 minutes. That's how much that meant to me overall. So
Yeah,
okay.
fair.
My number 15 now is one we talked about similarly, the next doctor. I know this is one of those that I like like the Doctor the Widow in the Wardrobe. I definitely like it more when I'm watching it than when I walk away from it. There are cool moments to it. I do really enjoy David Morrissey. I like them together. I like all the intrigue of how is this, because it actually does a good job of fooling you in terms of, is this really a doctor? Like there's like the I'm blanking so much tonight. He has the watch.
The fog watch.
The fog watch. You're like, oh my god, is this exactly what's going on? He knows things, and the story writing is good enough that you're kind of like, I don't see how this is absolutely not. I don't understand how this is working otherwise. However, it doesn't. I actually feel like it lacks a true companion for David Tennant to bounce off of. I think Doctor Who is always at its best when he has that companion that he's bouncing off of. He's bouncing off of David Morrissey, but it's a weird, different kind of way because David Morrissey is also kind of like, it's not even antagonist is not the word, but he's not a typical companion, and I feel like it's missing a typical companion. That's why it's lower for me. I do enjoy it. Enjoy a lot about it. It just doesn't catch me as much as some of the other ones, really, honestly.
So this is my number 9.
Number 9. Okay. Wow. All right. Wow. It's very different.
So there's like a huge discrepancy between us on this one.
Yeah.
I see your point on the companion thing, but I would argue that I think the reason this episode is so good is because it doesn't have one, and the Doctor is caught up in their own mystery as, they're caught up in their own mystery of, is this my future version or not? Because he knows that it's not him in the past. I mean, nowadays it totally could be, and you could make the argument at this point because we've been doing so many doctors that did not exist within anyway. But the point being is that part of what I like about it is that it's so wrapped up in the mystery of that, and so the Doctor not having a companion makes it more enjoyable for me.
Right.
Because I think that there's a inherent fun to that happening. I also just like the Victorian setting. I like all the stuff with the Cybermen. I think Morrissey is incredibly good in it. I think it's very clever playing with the TARDIS and the sonic screwdriver of it all. I get chills every time he finally has the conversation and Morrissey realizes he is actually the person whose son may or may not have been murdered, but his wife definitely was by the
Right.
cybers. And Tennant does the, unfortunately, you're not me, I'm me. And he does the like information dump on everything that's happened to him. It's just so damn good. I remember watching this the day it came out. I loved it so much that I watched it again almost immediately.
That's
Um,
fair.
I watched this one a lot. I love this episode. I think it's so fun. I think it's so spectacular. It hits just right. And I think most importantly for me, it's the only David Tennant episode that feels like Christmas. Like I know that
Okay.
this isn't specifically just about like the Christmas specials, but for all intents and purposes, this is a holiday special list in a lot of ways. And it's really nice that David Tennant had a single episode that actually feels so much like Christmas. Like the other ones really don't. And
Agreed.
so this one stands out, and that's why I like it so much.
I get that completely.
Yeah.
Again, and even though we disagree, I'm glad
Oh,
you
for
love it.
sure.
I'm glad you go for it. I'm happy for you liking it.
But also,
Just
fuck
doesn't
you,
quite do
Paul.
it. Doesn't quite do it enough for me. Okay, so what is next? What is your number 14?
My 14 is another David Tennant episode, which is
Oh,
Voyage of the Damned.
this is where we
Which
differ. This is where we differ.
see, you know what? Fair enough. I don't get the. This is just the Poseidon Adventure set on a spaceship
You're
in
wrong.
called the Titanic. Um, I think the villain's really boring. I'm a big fan of pulp. Anyone who
Mhm.
knows me knows how much I love pulp heroes and pulp villains and like the Rocketeer, all of that stuff. I love that. Like give give me the cheesiest, dumbest pulp things ever.
Mm.
And yet I hate everything about the villain Max. He's so lame. I don't like the angels. Like they're the lame versions of the Weeping Angels. Killer robot angels. Great,
Okay.
perfect, fantastic. Um, the one thing we have going for it is Wilf.
Not the one thing, but go ahead. That's one thing. That's one thing for
No,
sure.
no, and Tenet. And Tenet has a great speech about who he is. That is the
Yeah.
best moment in the episode,
Oh, by
bar
far.
none. Um, the truth is I blame the tease in my excitement at the
Okay.
end of season 3 because at the very end of the season when Martha walks out the door, and then if you've caught the Children in Need special, it goes on a little bit longer with the him hanging out with the Fifth Doctor in the TARDIS and all of that. And then the cloister bell, starts to ring, and he doesn't put the shields up. I was so excited for an episode set on the Titanic.
That's fair.
And
That's fair.
that is not what we got. And it's the same way that I also didn't like Titanic when it came out because everyone was like, it's a James Cameron movie. And I was like, what do you mean this is a movie by the guy who made Terminator? Like, it was not for me at that time. Maybe eventually I'll come around on this one, but every time I put this episode on, I'm basically bored. I just don't really enjoy it too much. But Tennant is good. Wilf is good. I do like I like it, the actress singer who is the companion
Kylie
though
Minogue.
throughout. Yeah, Kylie Minogue. Thank you. I
No.
think she's very good, and I also like. Oh my god! Wow, now I'm blanking. Why are you rubbing off on me in the wrong ways? There's a gentleman who is also in the episode who eventually shows up in the end of time.
Lonzo.
That yes, and he does the
Alonzo.
Alonzo.
Alonzo. He loves the name
Which
Alonzo.
is one of the best lines in the episode.
Right? The quirky
So
episode. All right. I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey, the constellation of stars. I'm 903 years old, and I'm the man who's going to save your lives and all 6 billion people in the planet below. You got a problem with that? No. In that case, Alonzo. Right there. That speech sold me in the whole episode, like you said. But I love David Tennant in this episode. I love Kylie Minogue in this episode. I almost wish she didn't die because I think she could have been a great companion overall. There was they had great chemistry for their moments. I also, by the way, loved, I'm never going to say it right, Panacafalata.
yeah.
Panacafalata.
Yeah, all right.
Can I call you Panacafalata? Can I call you something short for something? No. Okay. It's got to be Panacafalata. I agree with you about the villain. I agree with you about the angels and everything. But to me, I don't care. Like everything else surrounding it, I loved. So I didn't care specifically about the villain himself. Although the villain also gave me a great line because he's a loser too. Because that was one of my favorite lines in the episode too. When the Doctor comes on, 2,000 people on this ship, 6 billion underneath us, all of them slaughtered. And why? Because Max Capricorn is a loser. I never lose. You can't even sink the Titanic.
Yeah.
I love that.
that.
I do love the Alonzo, and I love getting Wilfred Mott early on. He lets his presence be known. He's quite the man. I loved having the guy. I can't remember his name now. He was the con man, kinda. He was trying to get away. He was trying to pass himself off as this Earth
Rixton, I think.
I think that's what it was too. Erickson Slade, and he gets out afterwards. And he gets away with it, but not really. The Doctor knows he's a fraud, but he kind of lets him get away because he's not a bad person, that kind of thing. That to me was the heart of Christmas as well. Everything about the episode it's camp as hell, absolutely camp as hell. But it had those hard pushing moments. It was a relationship of all the people that weren't about the villain himself. That's why I push it up to number 6. For me,
6. Jesus Christ, get your head checked. I'm sorry. No, 6. Fuck you. No, absolutely not. I'm sorry. I will never tell you you're wrong. That's not true. I tell you you're wrong all the time. But this is egregious.
You can say it's egregious all you want. I would choose to watch this episode over a lot of other ones. I would just pick this one and go, this is a nice one. If I have to watch a one-off, I like this one quite a bit as a one-off. I have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, this is going to be a one-off fucking episode here, too. I'll tell you what.
Fair enough. Okay. Now that we're done with that, let's move on to my
monster.
To my number 14. You're a monster. To my number 14. This is where I get Spyfall Part 1 coming in.
Oh, I have it at 13, so perfect.
Oh, we're very close. We're actually going to do it right in a row there. Good. Again, this is a Jodie episode. I will honestly say there's not a whole lot to it that I can talk about that I love for it, except for it has one of the best reveal probably in the Jodie era, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is bar none one of the best moments in her entire run.
Completely great. We have this wonderful moment where she's trying to figure out all the stuff going on. There's MI6 involved, which I love the idea. They're bringing in MI6. They're bringing in all these different government officials. They're trying to figure out what's going on with this issue going on. And then we get the reveal at the very end where we learn that Sasha Darwin, who had been playing O, one of the agents who was working with her, was the master.
Yeah.
Now, Grant, agree. We don't know. It's one of those Doctor Who things that you got to get used to. We don't know how he came back, really, because technically he was.
That's
dead.
Just very the master at this point.
That's very exactly the Doctor Who. There's camp and there's things you kind of let go. and that's one of them. When you get and you get a reveal like this on the plane, like it was a true horrifying moment. Like horrifying moment. The doctor's they're all on this plane, and all of a sudden they figure this out. And he like what he says, one thing I should tell you in the seconds before you die, everything that you think you know is a lie. And then he leaves the plane, and you're like, you don't see how the doctor's gonna get out of this one. Like one of those times where even Jody's like, I don't know. And he is retroactively even better because I think Sasha Dawan was the greatest thing about the Jody run. Every time he on screen, I loved his unhinged master. And he had a lot to live up to. I mean, because John Sim was awesome. Missy was another fun version, but he lived up to it and had made it his own. Loved it so much. Just for that alone, I could
I think that's the reason I have it where I have it as well, and it's higher than all the others. Is I specifically love it for the Sasha Dhawan reveal. It's just that good. I think that, especially considering, I just think Sasha Dhawan is such a talented actor anyway, and it was funny because obviously Sasha had already dipped his toes into the Doctor Who universe because he's in the TV special about the making of Doctor Who.
Yep.
So it was kind of funny that he got to actually then be in the show, and there's been a lot of that going around with that series, frankly speaking. If you go back and watch it, it's so funny. But if it wasn't for the reveal and the fact that Sasha Dhawan is so damn good, I don't know if I'd have this one so high. But Sasha Dhawan single-handedly carries this episode in a lot of ways, outside of Jodie's, once again, fantastic performance. And this is also maybe one of the few times I'm actually going to say I think Chibnall did a pretty good job. Like, writing-wise, this is actually a pretty solid episode. Stephen Fry is also very good in it. Like, this is a good episode. It's one that if you don't know a lot about the Jodie era and you want to check some of her episodes out, the 2-part Spyfall episodes are worth it. They were so good that they actually played them in theaters.
Yeah, they did.
They really did. So, it's not a game-changing episode of television in a lot of ways, and yet it is. That's the best way to say it, especially considering I think a lot of us thought we wouldn't probably see the Master again. At least not for a long while, because I mean, frankly speaking, and there's a lot of conversations about this now, is, well, where does Sasha Dhawan's Master even fit into all this? Because by the end of Missy's, time, she has changed and she is no longer a villain. That's the whole end of her story.
Right.
So there's a lot of people who actually think that he may actually be somewhere between the John Sim and Missy versions of the character.
Yeah,
which
I've heard
I think
that
could be
before.
very interesting.
I've actually heard also, unfortunately, somebody, and I hope it's not true. So they had something they proved that he had to be after Missy, but I can't. I honestly feel hopefully that's false, because it does feel like it's much more pre Missy, because Missy does have that change in her. It could be before John Sim, though, in a way, potentially. I think at some point too. I mean,
Totally.
Who knows? There's a lot of different ways we could do that for.
Could have been the one after the cat. You don't know.
You don't know.
Yes, the Master had cat DNA once.
Yes, exactly. And that's the case. Like, I almost was like holding out hope that Sasha might come back for Shooty, to be honest with you. Have that kind of crossover. Although with the whole thing that happened in the giggle, it's hard to think that he, I don't know, he'd probably come back something else potentially. Being in the Patrick Harris's tooth. But I still hold a little bit of hope.
My real hope, honestly, is that they bring back Matt, and that I really, because I know how bad he wants to be the Master, and I think that your move is that it should be an episode that is it should be a 2-part type episode that is hyped up as like it's a multi-Doctor story. Like Matt Smith is back as the Doctor, and then like the end of the episode should be a reveal like this,
not
where it turns out that he's been pretending to be the Doctor the entire time, and then it's actually the Master.
It would fit Sasha's Master's person too, trying to become the Doctor and power the Doctor, so it would make sense.
Exactly.
I'd love it. I think it's great, but yeah, either way, good episode. Not like one of the favorite, but definitely due to Sasha kicking ass there. So, all right, your number 13 was Spy Falls. We've already covered that. My number 13, Eve of the Daleks. That's where I
My number
finally
12.
is your number 12. Wow. So we're not too egregious with each other. We have a couple egregious moments, but otherwise we're good here. This is the final, I believe, the final of the Jodie Whittaker one. So unfortunately, it is what it is. But I will say right off the bat,
I like this episode.
I like this episode quite a bit. I think this is a fun episode. One of our complaints about the Chibnall era is that it feels like there's a lack of fun, of real kind of camp fun that we have. This one has a time loop. It has Daleks done in a fun way. We have this strange, weird romance between a very quiet, unassuming guy and this like kind of brash person who runs this storage space unit.
Yeah.
But they have fun with the time loop. They have fun with the characters themselves. This one, just a lot of fun.
It's nice to have a Groundhog Day-esque episode of literally anything. I'm always a sucker for a time loop Groundhog Day story, and I thought that this one was one of the better versions of doing that. Jodie is having such a good time. The cast is really good. It's the one time in the specials that it doesn't feel like the Daleks are being rammed down our throats in the wrong way. Like, it actually works really well here. Again, I got to give Chibnall some credit. Like, this is actually a very fun episode. And this is one of my biggest issues with him, is that it always feels a little too late, because this is like one of her last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Where the fuck was this your entire run, my guy? Like, I will never understand why he waited so long to have such a good time with Doctor
Who. Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah. I wish I had the right answer for you, but I don't. It just feels like exactly what he said. Like, it's kind of like, my time's running out. Let's just have some fun. And this is what Doctor Who needs to be like. Doctor Who has great emotional, powerful moments. And Doctor Who can be educational. And that's when Chris Chibnall tried to do a lot of Rosa Parks, things of that nature. All stuff that's great educationally wise. However, you got to have that sense of fun with it too, or else it won't work. And
Correct.
this one is very fun, and it keeps you going. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about it. Great performance by Jodie. I guess I love the 2 other people involved there. The Sarah and Nick, I believe they were the two lovers or would be lovers, and I loved actually specifically Sarah, because I love Sarah's conversation with her mother on the phone. Like, she keeps calling the mother and trying to get her to shut up and to get her to as far to the code where they're looking to do.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal. It's good piece of work. Good piece of work. So, all right. Well, that was my 13, and that was your 12. My 12 was The Runaway Bride, which you've already talked about. Your 11 was Dr. Winter of the Wardrobe, which you've already talked about.
Yep.
My 11 was Christmas Invasion, which you've already talked about. Number 10. What is your number 10? We are.
Number 10 is The Unquiet Dead. I find this absolute standout episode of Chris's. The fact this is only the 3rd episode in the series is still pretty remarkable to me. It also gives us Gwen Cooper's very long in the like line heritage and things like that, which is always welcome. I'm always here for more of the like weird after the fact lore building, as it were.
Only in Doctor Who can you really pull it off well, I feel like, because the time travel aspect of it. I don't know what it is
right.
about it, but
So I really like that. Because I just like Eve Miles. I think Eve Miles is great. I love the whole thing about it being set at Christmas with, of all people, Charles Dickens being a companion. Like, Simon Callow is so good in this.
He really is.
I think he's fantastic in it. I legitimately find the alien threat scary. I find this to be where the show really finds its footing in season 1. It still has a lot of the like weirdness in later episodes, but like this one in particular is for me where the show really starts to shine and feel like Doctor Who. And I think that's really special and really great. Chris is great in it. This is a damn good episode.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And funny enough, I have it as my number 10 as well.
Jesus.
So online with that one as well. I 100% agree. I've always loved a bit of horror in my Doctor Who, as I know you do as well.
Yes, sir.
We're big horror fans, and this definitely has that touch of horror in it for sure. I love the conversations and things that were brought in when when Gwyneth has that little stage conversation with Rose, and she actually says the things you've seen, the darkness, the big bad wolf, starting of course the bad wolf
Yeah.
arc, so to speak, which is cool. I agree with Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell. Wow, Simon Callow. Totally different seeing
Yes.
Simon Cowell as
Yeah.
Charles Dickens.
They're very different people.
Simon Callow's Charles Dickens was phenomenal. It was fun. Like I love it when they make the authors like because when you think about these authors of the Victorian era, kind of like don't have the feeling of them being fun, silly, kind of goofy in a way. They're always like, you think of them being serious. But when they're Doctor Who, you get that little side of comedy with them, and it makes them feel more real and more genuine and more like surprising to a degree. I mean, they do this. They did this also, of course, with Shakespeare in David Tennant's series. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting, and I think that it makes the character well. Written, of course, by Mark Gatiss, who is a great writer for Doctor Who. I love Gatiss writing Who
And
quite a bit.
like I'm gonna say it right now, and I apologize because I know this is just gonna be one of those things you make fun of me for, but not just a great writer of Doctor Who, he is a fantastic master in the
Oh
Big
yeah,
Finish audio dramas.
I've heard that. I've actually heard that. You've told me that
Uh,
before. And
yeah, he is awesome. He originally appeared in the Unbound series that they did with David Warner, but eventually he has crossed into some of the other stories and things. And he's so fucking incredible. He's just a great actor, just in
Mhm.
general. Like he was great in Sherlock also.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, you can tell that he wrote this one.
yeah,
It feels very Mark Gatiss-y, if you will.
yes, it does. It really does. Um, yeah. So I guess the only thing about it that would keep it lower on the list is that it is a random weekly episode. It's not like a real special per se. It doesn't try to be real special, it just tries to be a random episode. So it kind of feels like it has a long hill to climb when it comes to fighting some of these more special moments in Doctor Who, if you will. But even so, number 10 for us. So it did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
glad to
so.
see Christopher Eccleston on the list as well. So I'm happy we decided to include this
You're
episode for sure.
welcome.
Good choice. Good choice, my friend.
Thanks.
All right. So next up for you was the next Doctor, which we've already talked about. So now we're going to talk about my ninth one, which I am surprised. No, I'm actually going to do it. I'm sorry. I'm actually changing last minute. I'm not going to tell you what was here before. I'm going to put here. I'm putting the Snowmen here.
No, stop that. You stop that right now.
I am putting the Snowmen here.
You are a bad person.
I can't help it. I actually really I do like this episode. Okay, we're in the top 10 here. We're in the top 10 or 19. So it's not like I'm saying this is a bad episode at all. In a way, I understand why I don't like weepy Matt Smith. Uh, I don't like depressed Matt Smith, which is like most of the episode, he's really kind of down. It does say Clara to get him back onto his happy ground in a way, gets him back going. But being weepy enough for a long enough time that it kicks it down the list a little bit. That makes sense.
You're a bad person, and you should feel bad about
You can
yourself
say that all
right
you
now.
want. You can say that all you want, but you know I'm right.
No, I'm the clever one. You're the potato one.
Oh, now I'm Strax. That's what we're doing here, huh? Okay, girl. I mean, again, it's not a bad episode. I just feel like it takes a little long to get going for me. I do love Ian McKellen voicing
What?
Great Intelligence. I do love Richard E. Grant. I do love seeing the gang there, Strax and Vastra and Flint. I do love
Yeah, the
them.
Paternoster gang.
Paternoster gang. I'm a big fan. I would love to see a spinoff of theirs. Absolutely. I would see.
There
Strax
is a
and-
spinoff.
I would love to see a spinoff of it.
Hey, there is a spinoff.
I'd love to see a spinoff of it.
I'll murder you.
You can try. Something about the episode, it tends to just, I guess it just meanders a little bit for me. There's some great moments in it. The reveal when they get to the TARDIS is a magical Christmas type moment. Clara, they climb the ladder and everything else. Clara is not Clara. Not, is it, yeah, Clara. Her death is a little bit overwrought for me. Because I know she's coming back. I feel like I knew she was coming back, and maybe that's why. I don't know. It felt a little melodramatic for me, which is a poor complaint, I guess, because Doctor Who has melodrama for sure. I don't know why. I looked. I couldn't put it up higher than any other ones. That's my problem. Like I look up higher. I'm like I don't know what I would put it past because I like the other one. Watching the other ones better. At this point, that's what we're starting to get to.
I am blindsided by your lack of respect for this episode right now. Just absolutely breaks my heart. I think number one, this idea that Matt Smith is weepy throughout, this is some of the most fun he is having in the role at like all times. All the stuff with Strax is amazing. There's all the goofy shit with the puppets. Like he's having so much fun in so much of the episode. Yeah, he's sad. The pawns are gone. Like they've died. But he's still having fun. I love all the stuff with him doing like the I don't want to be the doctor. I love all of that because it comes full circle with the stuff with Clara by the time it's over. I love how it's laid out. You get the Paternoster gang, which is so much fun. They're such great characters. How can you not love them? More Strax is never a bad thing.
Great.
The whole Strax forgetting the memory and thinking that he got run over by the coach is one of my favorite moments in the entire series, especially because Clara knows it's coming. And it's just mad, like the 11th Doctor getting so mad because Strax is so dumb and so bad at what he does. Grenade. Just everything. This episode is perfect. I watch it all the time. Richard E. Grant is awesome in it. We get the Return of the Great Intelligence, which we hadn't seen since the 70s. Like this episode is one that I watch when I am down. When I want to feel good, I put this episode on because it makes me smile. Like I fucking will die on a hill for this episode. And it makes me happy.
I'm happy for you. I'm happy you love it. I'm glad you watch it.
I know. I'm just being passionate.
I'm glad you're passionate about it. Absolutely. I get tired that Clara's like
that fucking
2 out of 3rd episode, like where you're introducing Clara again, you kill her again, and then you introduce Clara again, and it's just I get a little tired of that as well. I think it's partially why I feel it's a little overwrought.
But we only do it.
Where do you have it on your list? Well, we get introduced in the Asylum of the Daleks, then she dies.
I know. It's still, but yeah, and then it's only happened once.
So it happens. Yeah, but this is the second time I know she's coming up now. Clara is introduced again and then becomes the Impossible Girl, and it's kind of like, okay.
Anyway, it's my number 2. You heathen.
Number 2, really? Holy shit! I didn't expect that.
I really told you.
That. I don't know why I thought that. I didn't hear that. Maybe I misheard. Oh my god, number 2. Wow. Okay. Well, is what it is.
No, but I'm telling you, like I legitimately would I would go to war for this episode.
I really thought your number 2 is gonna be another one, a different one. Okay, fair enough. Okay, we'll get there. All right, let's move on before you have a stroke. What is your number 8?
Probably.
What is your number 8?
I believe it is called The Husbands of River Song.
After the Next Doctor, correct? That's your one you're on?
Yes, correct. Number 8.
You heathen. You are a heathen.
Yeah, see, no, absolutely not. I will not be talked down to by you.
You are an absolute heathen.
Honestly, I love this episode.
I'm teasing you.
Oh, I know you are. I love this episode very dearly. It's nice to finally get to the start of the River and Doctor relationship and finally having Moffat fill in a lot of the gaps, as it were, that we know about thanks to the speech that she gives the Doctor at the end of her life in The Silence in the Library, and that goes a long way. This is a really, really beautiful episode for about the last 20 minutes. There's some stuff in the beginning or in the middle that I'm like not crazy about. It gets a little long in tooth, but I think that Alex Kingston is so good and Capaldi is so good, and I'm glad that we got to see them together, that it really works for me. God, this is a good episode, though.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. It's my number 4. I love this
episode
so much.
Yeah.
I love this episode so much. Silence in the Library, that two-parter there, where they introduce River Song, is one of my favorites of all time. My favorite, like, 9,000
Yeah,
or
I mean, it's
10,000
I
years.
think it's most of ours, to be
It's
honest.
beautiful. It's beautifully done. It plays with time, like, better than a lot of even episodes do. Gives you something to look forward to, and this has been a long time coming. I know some people have issues with River Song. They don't love her as much as some other people do. But seeing from her, going from her first to here we are with her, last to date visual appearance at this point. I mean, she might come back. Who knows? She's teased things coming back before. And yes, I know she's Big Finish. She did a lot of Big Finish stuff. I get that as well. But there's something magical about getting this moment. This feels like such an earned moment. The end of the Derillian, being of the Towers of Derillian. Um, one of my favorite lines in the episode. What a heartwarming moment, and because that her last night is at this, at the Singing Towers of Derillian, and she gets a
Yeah.
moment. So how long is a night? And Peter Quill just turns 23 years. And that just feels so good. She has like
Yeah.
23 years left of that. When we think it's the last night before she's it's almost like a reprieve in a way. She's still gonna die after this. She's got 23 more years left. Which means who knows how many episodes they can go out and come back. Honestly.
Well, and I mean, of course,
Yes,
they have.
exactly. Exactly. Yes, exactly. I exactly what I'm saying. But not only that, I think one of the other times I get emotional about it was one of my favorite Peter Capaldi moments in general. When she's standing there and she fails to recognize him as a doctor, and she's having the argument with the dude and about where they are, and she's like, "Doctor doesn't love me. He wouldn't be standing here next to me. He certainly wouldn't be." Blah blah blah. And Peter Capaldi's like, "River." And finally, she stops her rant, turns to him. He just looks at her briefly. "Hello, sweetie." Boom! I start tearing up at that point. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
such a perfect moment. And I love how it's undercut by comedy right after. Because like she says something like, "You don't expect the stars to love you," or something like that. And she turns around and goes, "Don't you have to check with the stars first?" She's like, "Shut up, shut up."
It
It's
is
such a
so good.
relationship.
They're so good.
Ah,
And I have to say, and Paul put me onto this. I had never seen it before, but there is a fan edit of River giving the speech
mm,
in the Silence in the Library that is then intercut with the footage of the episode when they're in Derillium together.
yes.
That is absolutely heartbreaking.
Ooh,
It in a It's a
good way.
great thing. But if you're wondering what that looks like, please go check it out. It's a great piece of fan,
Editing
um,
stuff, 100%.
yeah, fan editing. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a magical moment. It makes me wish we could have gotten more of Peter Capaldi and Alex Kingston together because they worked so well together as a duo. Um,
Yeah.
so well as a
I
duo.
feel that way about her and Matt too. Now,
Yeah,
granted, they had more time than everyone else
right.
comparatively.
Yeah,
Um, and she and Tennant did a couple of audio dramas together. And one of the things, again, like I'm glad that Big Finish really leaned on it was letting her meet like McGann and Davison.
yeah,
And like, I'm glad that River over time, because we know she knows all the faces and they've done a very good job of not messing too much with, he clearly can't really know her, but
right.
also finding ways to have their
So adventures,
interactions
right.
together. And I really like that. I really like that. And it was really nice that they did this story. I'm glad that Moffat decided to tell it.
Yeah, I really am glad it's exactly the same reason they decided to tell it for that reason. Also, we got this is the first appearance of Nardole. Even though it's
Yes.
not quite the Nardole we know, but
No.
it still is the basis for what the Nardole is to become. Um, and
We
it is
stand Matt Lucas.
we just had Matt Lucas. And I will agree with you if there's a fault in the show. There's definitely some meandering moments in between. It takes us a long time to get. It takes a little while to get to where we want to go. But once
Yeah.
River and the Doctor know each other, the rest of the episode is just heartwarming, brilliant, powerful. Love it so much. I watch this one all the time as well. Yeah, so it's a perfect bookend to watch if you want to watch Forest the Dead, Science Library, Forest the Dead, and then just watch this one in a way. It's a good. If you don't, I
Yeah.
mean, I know all the episodes are great, but it's a good like marathon or so, or double feature of sort of those two episodes uh,
Totally.
of the first. So that's where I'm going to go with that. So that's my number 4. So now we're on my number 8 at this point, which was your number 8 with Husbands of River Song. This is actually where I am putting The Church on Ruby Road. Is
I
Rotten
have it
Tomatoes
at
now?
6,
Not too bad.
so we're not too far off.
No. I feel like giving it some time, it kind of slipped a few places down. If I had made this right after watching Church and Ruby Road, I probably would have put it even higher, probably 6 or 5. Having watched it a few more times, it's not like it got worse for me. It's just that the novelty wore off a little bit, which sometimes happens. Sometimes when I know I'm a sucker for it when I see something new when it's novel, I'm like, oh my god, I love it, I love it, love it, love it. And then I kind of like it settles down to where it is. It's only settling down a couple spots though, because quite frankly, Shooty is a goddamn delight.
Yep.
And his whole introduction. Here is what you should do. Here's what David Tennant should have done first. Not that it's David Tennant's fault, but like a full-on first appearance in a Christmas special. This is how you do it. She's
Yeah.
right out there magically. He references old things. He brings apart new things. He gives you the energy that you want from the Doctor. Get introduced to a new companion. Again, they have great chemistry together. That moment. There's a lot of magic moments. It sets up the story where it's going. We get Mrs. Flood's character, who I love. That's what everybody's talking about now. Who is Mrs. Flood? You got the goddamn Goblin music number. Love that, of course.
That's the most delightful thing in the entire world.
Absolutely, I'm all for it. Everything about it is just a perfect debut for a Doctor, for a new Doctor, for a series that's trying to kind of reinvent itself partially, or at least bring on all the new people that can, all new viewers without having to weigh them down with the baggage of 60 years worth of content at this point.
And if you want to hear us talk about this for about an hour and a half, there's an entire episode of us talking about this on the
Our
channel.
very last episode, actually, the playlist is the one right there. So yeah, we won't
correct.
talk about too much. So why don't you give me a quick, just a quick and dirty of it, and you can point them that way. for everything else.
It's fantastic. Shooty's awesome. Millie's amazing in it. It feels magical. It was great to have a Christmas special again. It feels like Christmas. It feels wonderful. There's a real Moffat-y, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey to it that is very appealing to myself. That is very much my sensibilities when it comes to the show in a lot of ways. There's a brilliant, very Eighth Doctor-y moment at one point in the episode that just stands out to me, and I think about it all the time. God, Shooty's a fucking delight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fully on. All right, since we have talked about it before, we won't go any further with that. We'll bring you up to PJ. You're number 7.
Last Christmas.
Also, my
Capaldi.
number 7.
Well,
Also
all
my number
right.
7.
Look at us
So
go.
here we are.
Yeah.
Go
All
ahead.
right. Look, I
Fair
like
enough.
this one. This is PJ's version of liking Inception. Not to like really take shots at that movie. I think it's a very good movie, but if you've listened to any version of our podcast long enough, I've never really hidden that like Christopher Nolan and I don't necessarily gel all the time. I don't necessarily get who he is as a filmmaker at times. Like, he's very cold. It's very calculated. It's very Stanley Kubrick, and that's just not who I am. I'm much more of a whimsical Spielbergian, type of film lover. In that regard, Last Christmas gives me my version of Inception in a lot of ways, involving weird aliens and Nick Frost as Santa Claus. Number one, how can I not have this at number 7 when you have Nick Frost as fucking Santa Claus?
That did a lot of hard work on its own. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, and of course, Jenna Coleman returning as Clara. This was originally supposed to be her last episode. It is very clear that it is rewritten at one point to not be that, and that holds it back from being completely great, because I think that it does undercut the moment at the end
Yeah, it does.
initially with her.
It does.
I don't get me wrong. I love what they ultimately do with her character. I do.
Yeah.
But God, if you had ended her story there, and if you've seen the episode, you know what we're talking about. There's a moment where the Doctor meets a very old version of Clara after the events of the episode, which is then later turned into, because of the rewrite and her coming back, that it is actually another dream within the dream of the sequence. But it's so profoundly powerful, and it's so good. And God, dude, like, Frost is so good in this.
Yes.
I want to see him come back. I
I
really
would
do.
love to see him come back. Oh,
Um, I love the opening of the episode, the Santa sleigh crash landing on Clara's rooftop and
yeah,
her finding them and the elves trying to like gaslight her into they're not actually elves and like everything is wrong. Like
yeah,
I don't know, man. This episode really works for me.
yeah.
It stands out and it continues to. I rewatched it during Christmas and it was like, man, this is just a good episode
I agree. It's funny. This is one of the ones that has kind of grown on me over rewatches. I think the first
for
time I
sure.
watched it, I was like, kind of like, "Ah, it's okay, it's okay." But every time I watch more, I'm like, I like this one more and more. For Nick Frost,
Yeah,
for the very ending you're talking about, I agree. By the way, there was a very Peter Pan and Wendy ending. Because
yeah,
like you come back and see the old Wendy, so to speak. I just felt like I think that the episode was great. I think the very end was great. It was the juxtaposition of them together, which kind of was a little awkward, which is why I pushed it
yeah.
down a little bit for me. But I love again a little bit of it's definitely got an alien vibe with the green crabs being right on your face. So it definitely has that alien vibe, which we love horror wise.
Which they of course make fun of it within the episode when
Right.
Capaldi because someone goes, "Oh, it's like that movie Alien." Alien? You have a horror movie called Alien? No wonder everyone hates the Earth and the human. That's racist. It's one of
I,
the best moments in the entire episode.
oh, yeah, Peter Capaldi lines. I think that's what we have to do someday. Just going through like best lines of each Doctor episode dedicated to Capaldi's best lines, that kind of thing. Because it's just fun listening to those kind of lines out there because they have great deliveries. Um, but no, I like what you said. I mean, again, I like the idea that we don't know if Nick Frost is really Santa Claus or not. The whole episode's kind of like this because Peter Capaldi's like not really a believer, and it's like
Yeah.
it goes back and forth this whole time. And I really, really enjoyed Faye Marsay as Shauna.
Mhm.
I almost feel like I liked her so much. I would love to see her come back as a companion someday because you feel like she's set
Yeah.
up to be a companion. She's like kind of alone
Well,
on
I
her
think
own
she
doing her thing.
was going to be.
Was she going to be the one
That
that Clara?
seemed to be the point of it all.
Yeah, it does make
And it's
sense.
interesting because I actually think a lot of Jodie's mannerisms and a lot of how 13 acts comes from
Mm,
that, which I think is
mm.
really interesting, and I wonder if that I don't wanna give Chibnall too much credit, but it does feel like there's a direct relation to that.
Yeah, yeah, that could be. I never really thought about it that way. That would make a whole lot of sense, though. But I do love the. I mean, it's funny because going back to the inception of it all, the Christopher Nolan of it all, I actually really highly enjoy Christopher Nolan's movie. Which I guess the way you describe it actually surprises me a little bit when you think about it, because I'm mostly a Spielbergian guy myself. I love whimsical, I love crazy things, but for some reason, I do jibe with a lot of Nolan stuff for various reasons. But it is what it is.
No, look, I've never faulted anyone else. It's
Yeah. Oh
just
yeah.
look, you know my feelings on his Batman movies, you know my feelings on
Hmm.
most of his stuff. I still haven't even seen Oppenheimer because I just can't bring myself to.
I get it. I totally get it. I
Yeah.
totally get it. I do love the other line. I love it really encapsulates the Doctor and Clara's relationship. You never told me he was dead. You said he made it back. I lied. I lied so you go home to Gallifrey instead of fussing about me. I never found Gallifrey. I lied so you stay with Danny. It's very much how they're dishonest with each other, but they're trying to do it for their own each other's good. Um,
Yeah.
it, that's why I do love. I think I grew to love Clara and Capaldi even more than Clara and Matt. Um, and I could understand if you're different about that because you love Matt and everything else. Um, but for some reason, I feel like Clara was able to get past the impossible girl thing, which weighed her down a little bit for me, and she became just another companion with Peter Capaldi. And I really liked how they met
I
and
actually
became one.
don't disagree with you on that.
Okay, cool. So I think they found each other very well, and they've
Yeah.
had a great thing with each other. But yeah, that's my bit there. I do anything else. I do love all the companions, all the characters in there, even though some of them are kind of like we don't get to know them all very well, except for like I said again, except for Faye, potentially. But I do love that ending. I even love the best part of the end when she gets young again. It's a very very Peter Capaldi thing. She gets young again. She's like, "Am I old?" He's like, "I don't know." And he has to go get a mirror. He can't tell how
Yeah.
old she is. That's so
That's
typical.
so good.
uh, so good. So yeah, that's where I go with that. Both of our number 7. So let's move on. We both said our 6s. Your 6 was The Church on Ruby Road. Mine was Voyage of the Damned.
You
uh, s-
psychopath.
so what was your number 5?
Uh, Speaking of Peter Capaldi, Twice Upon a Time.
Ah,
The famous regeneration of 12 and 1 at the same time, featuring David Bradley as the first Doctor.
I'm going to ask that we hold for this because spoiler alert, this is my number 1.
Yeah, I
This is
had a
my favorite
feeling.
one. My favorite one. So we'll talk about it more when we get there. We'll talk about our number 1s as like number 1s.
Yeah.
So then number 4 for me is this is where I put our number 5 for me, I should say. This is where I put A Christmas Carol. Number 5.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to hold.
Is that your number 1?
That is my number 1.
All right, all right. Let's hold on to those, and we'll talk about those in a bit. Awesome, awesome. Okay,
That
so
the irony of both of us having each other's number 1s at number 5 is not gonna be lost on me.
at all, at all. That's funny, and I love it. I actually love it. All right, so what's your number 4? Then we'll go there. Let's clean this up.
Time of the Doctor.
Okay, my number 3. So there you go.
Perfect.
It's perfect for me.
I mean, look, man, it's Matt Smith's swan song, and I find this over time, it grows on me more and more. I've always loved it, don't get me wrong, but I find that it is actually a much smaller episode in a lot of ways and feels a lot more emotionally resonant because of it.
Mhm,
I very much love the bombastic nature of The End of Time, which
mhm,
we are gonna be talking about very soon, obviously.
mhm.
Um, so it's not to say that I like this less because it's not more bombastic. I
Right.
actually like it more because it's not. Um, I just wish it was longer. And I think that End
Yeah,
of Time ends up ultimately benefiting in a lot of ways because it's a two-part episode. Like,
yeah,
and I kind of wish this had been. Because the truth is I think that Matt got a little shafted in that we went from Day of the Doctor to Time of the Doctor and then he was gone.
yeah.
Because remember, we really didn't realize that it was happening so fast. And
Right.
I think had we had more time in this episode, especially in Christmas Town, I would have liked to see him interacting more with the people there.
Right.
Um, it would have it would put this episode higher. Now it's already again, it's at number 4. I clearly love this episode. I think the last 10 minutes of it are some of Stephen Moffat's best writing. I will never not cry during his speech, and I will always remember when the doctor was me is my favorite
Yes.
line that the doctor has probably ever uttered.
Oof.
Because it's the first time that I feel like one of the doctors has really regenerated at this point, and been kind of okay with it ultimately.
Right.
Um, and there's something very powerful about that. There's something really beautiful about it. And I really just love the ending when when he sees the first face that this face ever saw when he and you see young Amy running through the halls of the TARDIS and then, Karen Gillan walks down and the Raggedy Man goodbye. Like it's really powerful. I'm getting chills thinking about
Yeah.
it. And it had also, they finally did the workaround on how many regenerations the doctor was going to actually have, and there's a lot happening in it. But this episode really works because it feels like Matt really goes for the most emotional beats he can handle in about a 60-minute period, and he really goes out on a high note.
Yeah. No, he really, really does. I agree on the length, especially because Day of the Doctor, the special was a longer episode, 77 minutes. So going back to a
Yeah.
60-minute episode in terms of getting to see him, Matt having his final episode, it does feel a little bit shafted. I'm not going to lie. And I think the same as Peter Capaldi's in my number 1. That's
Uh-huh.
actually the one negative about that is I feel like he could have gotten a longer episode as well. But I do love this episode quite a bit. It is tough to have. I mean, it's tough because the Time of the Doctor is overshadowed because the last episode before Time of the Doctor was Day of the Doctor when David Tennant came back, when Tom
Right.
Baker came back, and
Yeah.
it had all 13 doctors, and that was the 50th anniversary, and everything exploded, blah, blah, blah. And this is almost like an afterthought now. And that's giving Matt Smith the shaft in a way. I almost feel like he should have had at least another season or at least a couple specials to go. Um,
Yeah.
but I can't help that. What I can't help is looking at this particular episode, and they do really good. They do really good. It's kind of like a little like if I had to push it down from like number one, the reason why I pushed it down and why I switched it around end of time and I finally chose end of time as number two is because getting to Christmas Town is a little I don't know. Meandering is not the right word, but it kind of feels like it doesn't really take off until he gets to Christmas Town, which is funny
It
because the
definitely
story
takes
slows down.
time to get there. Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because the story slows down in Christmas Town to a degree, but like it's needed. It lets us
Yeah.
like spend time with the doctor and with Clara at that route as we go on before we get to that final moment where he has his big old man yelling at clouds, this time with Daleks in them moment, and
Yeah.
Clara begging for more regenerations for the doctor. And you're right, his regeneration, wow. And I got to say, nothing against any regenerations I've seen. But this one is very special. Very special one. I do feel like again, it's probably the most. I almost say it's the most meta. David Tennant has some meta-ness to it, but at that moment where, like you said, he said, "I'll always remember with the doctor. It was me." I felt even a little bit more like Matt Smith than
Yeah.
the doctor, and I loved it.
I also think there's a this is like the least violent version of regeneration on top of it, which is like very interesting because it happens fast. There's no explosion. The TARDIS doesn't, implode on itself. Like none of that happens, which is
Which is so bizarre for us. I remember being like
yeah,
thrown out a loop for that, like because all the ones in New Who had all been like boom, boom, and everything else. They all have been, except for this one. Really, by generation, obviously was different too.
yeah.
But seeing that when he just went, when I was like, oh my god, holy shit, that was quick. And then go into Capaldi that way. I did also love Capaldi's introduction, by the way.
Oh yeah. Oh, and one thing I want to say too, I think that this has one of the creepiest moments involving the Weeping Angels, the dying Weeping Angels on Christmas Town, and they grab the
Mm,
legs, but they can't send anyone back in time because they're dying. They have no
right.
power, and I've always loved that. I think that moment is really great.
Right. Oh, wow. No, they could. That's a good point. I almost forgot about that part. That's right. That's cool. That's
I
very,
I
very cool.
I love the Weeping Angels, so it's always stood out.
Yeah. No. I do want to throw in one there. It's just kind of a little off kilter. It's about the following episode, um, which is Deep Breath, which is
Yeah.
Peter Capaldi's first episode, but it does have a callback to kind of at least this timeline of the episode. It's brought
Oh
up because
yeah.
we see Clara walk by, we see that the phone is off the hook, the TARDIS phone
Yeah.
is off the hook. That comes back next episode where Matt Smith's doctor calls Clara in the future to please stay with Peter Capaldi's because he's probably very different, but he's very scared. And that moment sold so well for me in Deep Breath that it actually even made this episode better for me. That he
I agree.
stopped to do that was a beautiful sentiment, beautiful moment. Yeah, powerful, powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So, so all right, so that was your
That's my
number
4.
four. Okay, so now my number four was "Husbands of River" song. So my number or your number three, then I'm going to guess since we know it now is "The End of Time,"
That would be correct.
which is my number two.
Perfect.
No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So we're good. We're good. Um, Go ahead. Let's hit it up with "End of Time."
I mean, look, what can you say? I covered a little bit of it. This is pretty much as bombastic as you could ask for a finale. This is Tennant and Davies saying goodbye to the show all together for the first time. Because Davies is leaving as showrunner, Tennant is leaving as the Doctor. Moffat had written season 5 in the chance that he could maybe have him in it. They did offer him the part. He decided that if Davies was leaving, he was going to leave too. And so this is a big, bombastic, in your face finale that is just their perfect goodbye for Tennant, for their time on the show, for all of it. It's really quite insanely magical how well it comes together considering I think that Stolen Earth and Journey's End, which is the season 4 finale before this,
Mm-hmm.
is pretty much as great as you could have asked for to say goodbye to that era until this happens. Is it totally over the top and self-indulgent? Yes. Do I think that it has some issues along the way? Absolutely. But what it also has is John Sims' return as the Master, Tennant, so much Wilf because Wilf is basically the companion throughout, which
Which is,
is remarkably good.
yeah.
Um, dude, I can't say enough about how much I love this episode, and I mean, there's it's just so powerful. I cry every time I watch it. It
Mm.
just hits me. The I don't want to go just hits me. The long 10-minute montage of the doctor saying goodbye to all these people in his life before he and then like the walk to the TARDIS as he's slowly dying and the Ood is standing there doing the song. Like, I mean, dude, it's just good. Everything about this. Yeah, the whole plot is super convoluted about the master trying to take over the world and put
Yeah.
his face on everyone's faces. Like, sure, yeah, but that's the master. The master's weird. Always over convoluted everything. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
about that. What I care about is that it has some really great moments, including, the doctor talking about facing regeneration and why he hates the idea of another man sauntering off in his body. I
Mm-hmm.
loved that. It's a great conversation he's having with Will. All of that, man. Like, this is just Doctor Who for me in New Who at its best.
Yeah,
Also, Timothy Dalton.
oh God, I forget. I'm glad you mentioned him because I love me some Timothy Dalton. I loved him
Yeah.
since Flash Gordon. Loved him in his Bond. I loved him in um, Nick Frost and Simon Pegg's great movie that's escaped. Not Shaun of the Dead, but the next one, Hot Fuzz, Hot Fuzz. And I love him in this one. I think he's brilliant. He's brilliant fun in this one. He makes sense. I agree with you. There's a lot to be said about it being overwrought. There's a lot to be said about it being a little fan service. There's a lot to be being too complex and too much of a story. Lots of campy, weird things going on. Got David Tennant at like 700 years old, or however old he was, like really, really old man thing going on. We got a lot going on with Donna having this a kind of a sad ending to a degree. It is a there's definitely complaints against it. However, I don't care because you put all that
Yeah.
together, it really comes down to David Tennant puts on a hell of a performance. Um, hell of a performance. The ending is one I go back to all the time. I go back and watch on YouTube, watch the all different takes of him doing the "I don't want to go," and each one works for me in different ways for different reasons. Um, but it
Yeah.
is
They're all good.
they're all good, and I love that Wilfred Mott gets a full on episode as a companion because anyone deserved it was definitely him. Um, but everything about it really did sum up all of what Doctor Who was for RTD's era.
Yeah.
It just took everything that it had been, put it all together, and it was a perfect slam bang exit. Um, Following up perfectly on The Waters of Mars, which is I was saying before, it's might be my favorite episode of all time, The Waters of Mars. It follows it up with that arrogant doctor has an arrogant ending because David Tennant's still arrogant during this. Absolutely, still got this arrogance about him. His doctor's always
Yeah.
full of
That's
air
because
of
he doesn't want to
arrogance.
go.
Doesn't want to go. I could do so much more, so much
Yeah.
more.
Oh my
But there's something magical about it though. Like other characters, I might be upset about it. I might be like, "Oh, that's shitty. That's a shitty way to go. You're supposed to be your hero." But yeah, it's because he knows that and still makes a sacrifice that makes it a magical bit.
Yeah.
Um, but I love to get to see everybody involved. We get to see all the companions. The walk it was a perfect choice to have him be able to walk through his life to get his reward by seeing everybody we wanted to see. Um, it's
And saving Sarah Jane's son in the process.
Saving Sarah Jane's son in the process, saving Mickey and Martha. Um, I could talk about this one forever. Quite frankly, it is just a
Yeah.
powerful, powerful moment. It's why it's my number two. I could watch this one all day long. So I
I've
love it.
watched this
I
one all
love it.
day long.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, then let's go with Christmas Carol. Your number one.
I mean, look, for me, if we're talking Christmas specials, if we're talking anything of that season, as it were, it doesn't get better than this episode for me. I'm a sucker for A Christmas Carol, just in general, of
Mm,
like the story of the Charles Dickens tale, who we talked about earlier. I just tend to be a fan of people attempting versions of this. I've seen so many adaptations, television, movies, stage, TV shows, like doesn't matter. But I love that Moffat found a way to do something so clever in not doing the story, but doing the story.
right.
And that is why this episode is so special. And I love Matt in it. And I just find this is the show firing on all cylinders, coming off what is my favorite season of the show, with Moffat, Matt, Karen, everyone doing some of their best work. Plus, you've got so many incredible actors to be in this too, including the late great Michael Gambon as Kazran
Mm,
Sardak. Um, I mean, look, man, this is it. Like this for me is this is what I would call the comfort show. Like this
right.
is the comfort one for me. I can watch this when it's not even Christmas because it's just that damn good. And I think it gives Matt a lot to work with on top of it because there's a
Right.
lot happening here within. And it's funny because there's like hints of Voyage of the Damned
Yeah.
with the ship heading towards a planet that's going to crash and kill everyone on board. There's a lot of those like there's kind of samey beats, but it finally works for me. Plus, I get Matt going. You know, I saw it's Christmas time. I saw a chimney. My whole brain just went, "What the hell?" Like his introduction in the episode is remarkable, with him coming down a chimney. This is Doctor Who at kind of at its most camp for me with Matt in the right way.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. This is the most, and we had this conversation beforehand. I actually asked you, I'm like, when we're ranking these, are we going to rank these on how much we like them or how much holiday they are? Is like how does that
Yeah.
come into play? And quite frankly, this is probably the most Christmas episode there is by far,
Yeah,
for
for
me.
me.
And that's why it's so high. And again, I have it at number 5, which is not too far off at all. But it feels like A Christmas Carol has been done so many different ways, so many different times. It's like probably one of the most overdone stories in the history of man. So to even tackle that was a ballsy move by Moffat.
Oh, for
Ballsy
sure.
move. Um, and to be so successful with it shows just how impressive it was. Again, you said again, Michael Gambon is a great Karzan, Kazran. I love the kid in there. He just is this great companion. I know Amy and Rory are technically the companions, but they're up and trying to prevent the ship from exploding. But the young Elliot there is just a wonderful actor as far as that goes. I really believe him. I really want to see him succeed, and there's a lot of magic in there. I love seeing the carbonated kind of actor
Yeah.
people put in there, the frozen people. I love seeing us go through the history of the characters. Um, it's really Matt at his best because, in a way, Matt is detached. It's like a doctor that's detached. A lot of Matt's episodes, especially his best episodes, are personal about like his relationship
Yeah.
with his companions, with Rory, with Clara, with whoever. This is an episode where he gets to be detached from the. He gets to just be the idiot with the box who's fixing things, so to speak. He gets to be a little detached. And I think it serves Matt well to do that, because we don't get to see that as much. It's a magical kind of thing for him. So I really do appreciate this one very very much.
Well, and I also think that it's Moffat's best version of wibbly wobbly timey wimey because he's changing Kazran Sardik's history in front of him, which
Right,
I think is so cool and so different because there's that moment where he's literally watching footage from his childhood where the doctor shows up and he goes, "But that never happened." And then
right.
he turns and he goes, "But it did."
Did right,
And
right.
I love that.
Yes, Gambon really sells it, and he's a magical actor. I'm not. I think
Yeah,
he was really powerful with what he did, and I was really happy to see that they landed him for this.
me
Um,
too.
yeah, good one. What a great one. All
It's
right,
just it's fucking great, man.
it is. It really is. All right. Do we have any other things you have to say before we'll talk about my number one?
It also features a flying shark, and they ride around on it while Matt Smith has a Santa hat on. So 10 out
That's
of
fair.
10 would recommend.
10 out of 10 would recommend. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, for me, my number one, you mentioned it was your number 5, I believe.
Yes.
Twice Upon a Time. Magical episode for me. Again, I'll get through the negative side of thing. It is a little short. It definitely feels like it was truncated, and there could have, it could have been more even. But I got to be honest, I just love what we got. I just love what we got. Um, I know I'm a sucker for Peter Capaldi. You don't have to tell me that. I know that by now. Um, Having Peter Capaldi refuse to regenerate was such an interesting storyline right from the get. Right from the get, I'm like, he's refusing to regenerate. What does that mean? I don't understand. And to have him, one of the best parts of the giggle was when we got to see the Doctor rehabilitate himself. Right, get to see him like feeling that kind of thing between Judy and David Tennant. We actually kind of
Yeah.
get to see that a little bit here too, where he has to go to talk to the first Doctor, to the OG Doctor, in order to understand how far he's come, and that it's okay to keep going, that it's still allowed to keep going. Um, I love that we get to bring back Bill Potts because, quite frankly, I think Bill Potts gets the shaft of the one season run. I thought she was a phenomenal companion. I loved her in this role.
Yeah, I love
Um,
Bill. Bill's fantastic.
I would love to see Bill come back even in different ways, shapes, or form. We do get a piece of Nardole at the end, which is nice. A great job by Mark Gatiss as well as of the
Yeah.
captain. And I got to say, I saw it coming. I think everybody saw it coming, but sometimes you see something coming and you get rewarded. And it doesn't matter if you see it coming. When you find
Yeah.
out at the end that he is
The grandfather of the Brigadier.
grandfather Brigadier, you're kind of like, of course he is. Of course he is. But
Yeah.
you're happy it
Or
happened
the I'm
nonetheless.
sorry, this father of the Brigadier, the
Yes, he's a,
grandfather of
yeah,
Kate Lethbridge
of
Stewart.
Kate Lethbridge Stewart. Exactly. Exactly. Um, it's oh god. I love getting to see David Bradley as the first Doctor, considering how
That's
well he did.
what I was gonna get into is that,
Go
like,
ahead. Go ahead.
look, I love Capaldi. I
Hmm.
love
Hmm.
everything about this episode, other than it's far too short. And we know it's too short because they've admitted out loud that they cut more of the episode than they intended originally, but they were told that they had 60 minutes to tell, and that was it. That was the
Hmm.
BBC requirement. Whatever.
Hmm.
Um, David Bradley getting to play the first Doctor after playing
William Hartnell.
the character
Yeah.
of the actor who was the first Doctor for the TV movie for the 50th feels like such a special moment. And in the words of the end, that the first Doctor's final or last words in this is the long way around. Well, that kind of felt like his long way around of finally becoming the Doctor.
Yes.
And it really works and it's really special. And I really love he and Capaldi together. I think Mark Gatiss as um, the Briggs father is so awesome. Uh, I love that they use the ceasefire day, of course, as the backdrop of World War One, because that in and of itself is like one of the only Christmas miracles that you could talk about in human history that really is just truly
Describe that.
magical.
Yeah.
Um, so the whole thing feels very perfect and very much about, yeah, things aren't always perfect, but like it will be okay. And the Doctor regaining his memories of Clara at the very end is
Oh,
just good lord,
that's such a
so
magical moment.
powerful.
Again, that might be called fan service by some, but to me, it was exactly what's needed. Obviously, he
Yeah,
had lost his memories a couple of like a season back, and finally having recur and have her bring him back, and that whole like I forget what they call themselves now. The whole like the glass
yeah, the
people
glass
who
people.
basically were showcase they when the memories of the individuals. That's how we got Bill Potts back. How we got Nardole back, who technically we believe died during the last episode. Um, and Clara, of course. What I loved about that, I think that's a very special thing I want to point out specifically, is I almost feel like in almost any other Doctor Who episode, they would have ended up being evil, or they would have ended
Yeah.
up being a villain kind of he had to defeat. And I love the fact that he suspects them from being a villain the whole time. He suspects them from being evil or something. And it turns out at the end of the day, they are exactly who they said they were. And it's
And
all
he was
about
wrong.
wrong, and he has to come around on that. And I love the fact that the first Doctor gets to see his glimpses of the future of everything that goes down. All he goes that magical thing to get to see Matt Smith and Dave Henry. I always love those. I'm a sucker
Also,
for those.
previously 756 episodes ago is one of my favorite things of all time.
Yes, that's part of it too. It feels like a Christmas magical moment that's also really relies on the weight of the entire series.
Yeah.
Like it's a history making episode. I love like one of my favorite lines is in there when he's talking to himself and he says something like, so do I become you? Rick Wally just smiles and goes, well, there's a few false starts, but you get there in the end.
Yeah. Paulie's wonderful in this last episode.
He
really is. I really love him in it.
I mean, I'll say it right off that I've been made it quite clear Peter Capaldi my favorite. I will say that it took me a little bit to get into Capaldi, but on a rewatch, I totally loved him even more. Every time I rewatch his episodes, I love him even more. I find more deliveries that I love. He has a great. Every line means something, or is said in such a way it's just a magical way of saying things. Even if the episode isn't great, sometimes he is always delivering. And we'll talk about his regeneration as well. Another great return when he finally makes a decision to, okay, he's like, okay, I love the whole. He talks to himself the whole time. He's not talking to anybody else, just himself.
Yeah.
But it's such a great dialogue or monologue with himself. I love the, oh, there it is. So
always be kind, you know.
The more I save it, the more it needs saving. It's a treadmill. Yes, I know. They'll get it all wrong without me. I suppose one more lifetime won't kill anyone. Well, except me. My favorite bit of the monologue, though, yes, never be cruel, never be cowardly. But the way that Peter Capaldi delivers the remember, hate is always foolish, but love is always wise. He says it with such, forgive me for using the words overused, but such a gravitas that
he does.
It's I get chills right now. I think about his delivery.
Well, that and then the Doctor, I release you, which is just
Doctor, I let you go, and it's like, oh, good. Be kind, laugh hard, run fast, be kind. It's a fitting ending for him. I'm glad he got to do something no other Doctor got to do with this whole refusing to regenerate and bring him the long way around. Getting to have a kind of happy ending. You see all the memories come back. God, I love it. It has
it's a great episode, miracle. Man.
Yeah, Christmas Miracle, like you mentioned, makes it a Christmas episode for me. I can put it on. It's like this magical time. I love it. It's my favorite. So there we have it, my friend. We just went through them all.
That's it.
So just to sum up, I'm going to sum it up. Maybe I'll put a graphic up. PJ goes Revolution of the Daleks, Return of Dr. Mysterio, The Runaway Bride, The Christmas Invasion, Voyage of the Damned, Spyfall Part 1, Eve of the Daleks, The Doctor, The Widow and the Wardrobe, Unquiet Dead, The Next Doctor, The Husbands of River Song, Last Christmas, The Church on Ruby Road, Twice Upon a Time, The Time of the Doctor, The End of Time, The Snowmen, and The Christmas Carol. Now I go Revolution of the Daleks, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, The Doctor, The Widow, and the Wardrobe, The Next Doctor, Spyfall Part 1, Eve of the Daleks, The Runaway Bride, The Christmas Invasion, Unquiet Dead, The Snowmen, The Church on Ruby Road, Last Christmas, Voyage of the Damned, A Christmas Carol, The Husbands of River Song, The Time of the Doctor, The End of Time, and Twice Upon a Time. I think it's magical to say, despite we have one or two really off-kilter ones for ourselves, which is expected to happen. Two different people.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a lot that are very, very close and very, very similar because we have very similar tastes, to be completely honest with you.
Me? No, never.
So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back for more. I think we'll try to do at least one more, if not two more, before the new season arrives. We'll have to talk off air. We don't have a clue what we're going to do next, but we're going to try to get back and get in touch. PJ, where can the folks find you?
Twitter, Instagram, most of the socials, PJ_Campbell, Letterboxd as well, all those little fun places. Trying to be more active on Letterboxd again. I've been very bad about that lately, so I'm going to start trying to use it again.
Okay, fair. Me at
Yeah.
Paul on Twitter. You can find me at the PLD Projects, Blue Sky and Threads, and I don't go there nearly enough as I do. Well, basically because I feel it's dead there, so that's part of the problem. If everyone
Yeah.
just move over, then I move over. Otherwise, you can find me all over this channel. Of course, I got Two Mediocre White Dudes on Film. Got that coming out on Tuesday. We Jason X. I can't wait to have that discussion. It's gonna be a
Finally.
lot of fun. You know,
Thank
finally.
God.
Holy
Don't want
Snopes
to
this
ever watch Jason Goes to Hell again.
it's fair. Holy Snopes this week. Maddie and I are going to be starting our Bad Batch Season 1 rewatch as we get ready for Bad Batch Season 3. Review comes out every other week. Me and Leo going through the V franchise. We are nearing the end of the weekly series from 1985. We got the Queen podcast every Friday. And of course, I think that's it, right? Is that everything? I think I got everything. Good enough. If I didn't, you'll see them. Just look at my channel.
It's all here.
It's all there. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you want to help us further, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. Join such stalwart individuals as Austin Cadell, Brendan Buckingham, Jeff Alterman. I couldn't do this without you and with everybody else. I love you guys so much. You really help keep the lights on. If not, totally get it. Share and support, share, comment, all that stuff. Try to get us out there. Let us know what you want us to do. If you have any specials that you'd like to see us cover, any rankings or anything like that you want to see us cover before May. But until then, I guess that'll do it. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, be those idiots in a box with us. Bye now.